Alright. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Bronze to GM Zerg 2.0. I did a Bronze to GM a few years ago, but it's time to update it with new builds that show a completely different way of playing Zerg and to talk you through how to do it. So let's talk you through exactly what I'm doing in this first game. If you want to hear about the mechanics, skip to the end and go straight to the next one. Alright, guys. First of all, your hatchery, you want to take this. We're going to put that on number 1. Okay, control 1. We build one drone, then we're going to build an overlord, then we're going to select the hatchery, build one more drone. Now, our first overlord, guys, this guy's name is Nigel. This is Nigel the Pervert, and he's a bit of a creeper. He's going to click across the map to sit just outside our opponent's base. Now, we can put him on number 2 for now. Now, when this overlord pops, we want to select the hatchery and build some more drones. We're also going to take a drone and we're going to send this across the map now. And what we can do is we can queue it to go like that. So it goes in the main, in the natural, and then it can just come home and mine. Now at 17 supply, we want to build a hatchery. So we're going to build a hatchery down here. And the whole point here is to just show you guys a lovely Ling Bane build. Now remember, Nigel, his job is to have a bit of a cheeky perv on the other side of the map. We're going to build 2 more drones, and we're keeping an eye on that supply count because this is what you use to modify what you're doing as you play StarCraft, okay, guys? So on 18 supply, we want to go for a gas and a pool. So what we can do is we can box these drones, we can go build a gas, build a pool. And then we want to just keep on building drones with all of this lava that's available here, okay? So what you want to do, you want to go to your natural. We're going to add that to our hatchery hotkey. And we're also going to create a camera location there. I'm going to talk to you guys more about these camera locations as time goes on. Right now, we're making a 3rd base camera location, a 4th base, and a 5th base. Now, you might be wondering at this point, let's put guys on gas, what your drone scout, what are you looking at in their base? Well, when you first start, you're looking at nothing. Don't even worry about it. Down the track, technically, we'll just be checking if the buildings are in their base, because if they're not, we'll have a reaction for that. In this case, don't even worry about it. Let's just focus on what we're doing at home. So once you have 16 workers on minerals and 3 on gas, we're going to change the rally points to the natural. So select your hatcheries and keep building drones as well as an overlord here. And notice when you build overlords, guys, you can actually tell those where to go on the map on their own. So notice we've got one outside our natural. We also want one over here outside our 3rd. We can move that one forward. And now that our spawning pool's finished, what do? We select our hatcheries. We build 2 queens. And we're going to build 4 Zerglings. We're also going to control click the egg and go control 2. So Nigel, his control group gets replaced by our army key. We're going to talk about all these mechanics after this game. For now, we're not going to talk about them too much and we'll just continue. So let's just keep building drones as much as we can. Start Zergling speed. And we also want to send a drone over here because about 32 supply. And we'll just send the Lings to defend that. We're going to build a 3rd base, about 32 supply. And we always want to follow that up. Ooh, we got a kill. Isn't that nice? We select it, shift 1. We then double tap 1, and that's sent. And then we remake our camera location so that it's perfectly centered. Notice how these are all consistent. The hatchery is exactly in the center of these keys. Beautiful. All right, let's inject these bases now. And what do we do after building the 3rd base? We get a queen. We also build another overlord. And then we just keep on droning. Now, guys, I've got a few queens here. We're building a 3rd one as well. And we're going to be building these queens every game. And we're only ever going to be injecting consistently with 3 queens. Up here in the main, in commemoration of course, Queen Elizabeth, the sovereign ruler of my nation for the vast majority of my lifetime. This here is Queen Elizabeth, a.k.a. Lizzie. She's going to be injecting the main all game long. We're also going to introduce you down here to our 2nd queen. She's a bit of a psychopath. This is Cersei. And the 3rd one coming out, a bit of a legend. That there is Latifah. Latifah's going to go over and inject that 3rd base after she spreads some creep. Now, whenever you do injects like that, you do want to immediately stick to the macro cycle. What's the big thing? So basically you go inject, inject, inject. Then you build drones. And the last few lava you save to build overlords. And remember, we're going to build overlord. Click on the minimap. We then reselect the hatchery. Build overlord, click on the minimap. At that point, you can see the minimap. We'll have one there on the top left, one on the bottom right. That's going to give us a ring of vision around our base to give us warning when enemy comes in. Beyond that, any extra overlords, you can just click them in the back of your base so that they don't get killed when your opponent pushes. And guess what? It's time for another macro cycle. So we're going to go inject, inject, inject. Hold down the drone key. Whoops. And then the next few, we want to build overlords. So notice our natural is now full of workers, guys. So let's rally to the third. And when our natural's full of workers, we have the next part of the build. We go gas and Baneling Nest. And what we can do is we can then build 3 drones manually and click them on the gas. Because I don't want to change my whole rally point, but I want just 3 workers to saturate that gas. All right, Latifah and Cersei are going to take care of this Viking because he's being a piece of poop. We're even going to drop a band-aid there. Cersei showing a bit of love and care, very unlike her. And it's time for another macro cycle. So remember, it takes 30 seconds for a lava injector pop. So every 30 seconds, no matter what you're doing, you go inject, 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 hold down that drone key, and build a few overlords. And that's going to keep your economy rolling. And this is the secret to having good Zerg play. Also, we are playing Ling Bane. I'll tell you why we're playing Ling Bane instead of roaches in the future. After that, guys, as you're droning up this third base, hopefully before it's fully saturated, but in this case here, we want to go double Evo chamber and a lair in the main. And if you're ever running a little low on workers here, once again, we can use that tip. Select your hatcheries, build a few drones, and then just click them on the minerals in the main base. Check it out, guys. Lava inject popped. So whenever you do these kind of in-between tasks and get distracted by things, you should always be like, ooh, time for a macro cycle. What do? Jump to the main, inject, jump to the natural, inject, jump to the third, inject. But because we've got 3 full mineral lines, we have nowhere else to build drones, and we don't want any more. 54, 55 drones is where we want to stop. So now we're going to build nothing but Zerglings and Overlords. So we're swapping that production. Now, you're going to notice we have a lot of minerals, and that's why part of this build is actually to do this. Normally, we'd do it earlier. We'd build 2 macro hatcheries. But in this case, if you've still got money, you also want to take a 4th base and a 5th base straight away. And I've still got money even after that, so let's build 4 macro hatcheries. Now, this seems ridiculous to a lot of players out there. Cersei, get him! Oh my god, you're so annoying, Realm! Get out of here! Okay, guys, we're going to kill Realm's second Viking and go back to inject. Time for a macro cycle. Inject, 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 build Zerglings, and build a lot more Overlords to replace those ones that are dying. Realm's harassing right now as well, so what we're going to do is we're going to build a Spore Crawler, run these guys away. We're also going to A-move these Marines guys with our Zerglings. And... oh my. Oh, that's a big army. Okay, we shouldn't be doing that then. All right, let's keep building Zerglings here, guys. When your opponent's attacking you, you want to pull right back. So we're going to pull into our main base. We're going to add these hatcheries to our control group. The 4th base and the 5th base as well. So notice we got 9 hatcheries, and we're still going to keep injecting, even when there's an army on our doorstep. And we're going to build lots and lots of Zerglings. Now these guys can go back to mining.
Our drones are under attack.
Oh, did that not die? Oh, he runs away. All right, Cersei's going to kill that. We're going to come down here with Lizzie. Lizzie's going to take him out. All right, good job, Lizzie. All right, Realm absolutely could have killed me there, but I guess Silver League players do sometimes just set up for the contain like that. It's weird. I'm so used to someone coming in and killing me when I take this long to do anything, but that's okay. Notice we're making Baneling speed, and we're making a lot of Banelings, but more important, guys, keep producing. But there's an army there. I want to stare at it. No, no, no. Just rally to the very back of your base, and what do? Inject. Inject, that's where that coin is, and build a ton more Zerglings, okay? Notice I've got plenty of supply free, so I'm skipping Overlords on this round. And we can obviously run down and blow them up, but you're much stronger when Baneling speed finishes. So I can lose a few hatcheries, as long as I don't lose the heart of all my drones and economy, we still got a chance of hanging on and surviving here, okay? And this is essentially the point where you want to do that anyway, right? Well, it says 43 drones. We should be a bit higher, but I guess we lost a few building all these hatcheries in the main that we never replaced, so that's big. And what did we just do there, guys? We're going to do a macro cycle, but notice I'm using shift. I've missed so many lava injects this game, but we've got lots of energy banking up, so we can do it that way. We build more Zerglings, more Banelings, and check it out, the army's coming. So as soon as Baneling speed's ready, we're going to go out there and defend. If you can run these drones away, that's good. Just click them off in the corner of the map somewhere. And then these guys, Baneling speed's done. So what we're going to do now is when Baneling speed and your 1/1 upgrades are finished, is normally you'd go for an attack. But you know what, guys? Going for an attack is also usually a pretty good time to go for a defense, right? So we're just A-moving out here. And then we're going to A-move across the entire map, okay? So we're going to A-move into my opponent's base. And normally I advise looking at that stuff, but right now it's more important for us to go inject, grab these guys back to that base, and build more Zerglings. Now as our army arrives at the other side, let's see what they're running into. Technically, we could run past our opponent's defenses to be a bit more effective here, but luckily our opponent never walled off. And even though Liberators obviously do a lot of damage, they kind of overkill massively versus Zerglings and Banelings. So they're really not the most effective unit for this sort of situation. And we're going to get ourselves a victory in the first game and show you guys the very, very bare bones, missing tons of explanation of exactly how we're going to be crushing and overwhelming games with this style, which is mass Ling Bane in all matchups and all situations, at least at the very beginning. We're going to add a lot of nuance to that, reactions and things, but for now, that's the style that we're looking at. And we're going to do it faster, we're going to do it cleaner, we're going to do it with better scouting as we develop up. But first of all, let's go talk about the mechanics so that we can actually explain the fundamentals of how you need to have your setup working so that you can even understand how I'm explaining things and how all of these tools I'm using actually work. First things first, let's talk about the mechanics. Let's go out to Windows and let's walk you guys through a few of these settings, okay? First things first, keyboard and mouse. And I showed a lot of this stuff in my last Bronze to GM, but for those who didn't see that, I want to show it again. Also, there's a few bonus things I didn't show last time. So first of all, notice we're opening mouse, additional mouse options, as well as keyboard. So we just searched mouse and keyboard in Windows to get here, guys. And you want your keyboard properties, you want to make sure you go to the speed tab up here, and you want the repeat delay on the shortest possible repeat rate on the fastest possible, and then apply. What this does is it allows you to spawn Zerglings just like that. Look how quick that is to build 20, 30 Zerglings, as opposed to if those are much slower, that's going to be slower. However, we also want to do an extra step, which I didn't show last time, which is going to the registry. Now, this is only for the elite hardcore gamer nerds, so don't mess with this at your own peril, okay? Mess with this, but if you guys, just for the hardcore nerds, if you want to have the crazy repeat rate of people like me, where it's like I hold down Z and it's... Don't get me wrong, this will affect your entire keyboard on Windows. So if you're typing in a document or in your browser, it's probably going to throw you off. I'm used to it, so I just am used to using an insanely high repeat rate. So I like this, and this makes it so easy for me to queue up dozens of units at a time. But if you want to do it, what you want to do is you just type regedit. That's what I did to get the registry editor open. Once you're in there, guys, you want to go down here. You can see the menus I've gone down. H key, current user, control panel, accessibility, keyboard response. Once you find that keyboard response, you can see the whole pathway up here. Computer, H key, current user, control panel, accessibility, keyboard response. You can just emulate these settings. Pro gamers all have slightly different variations, but auto repeat delay, 150, that's milliseconds, and the repeat rate, 10 milliseconds, I believe. So basically, if I hold down Z or Z, let's speak American for you guys, for 1 second, then it would build 100 Zerglings, basically. So that's the rate. If I hold it down for 0.1 of a second, it'll build 10 Zerglings. That's really nice for me. Flags 59 as well. So bonus, if you guys want to do that, get in there and do that, because I've never really actually shown this in a video on how to set that up, but I know all the hardcore higher level players do generally do that. All right, guys, in the mouse properties, you want to go to pointer speed. You want to make sure this is unticked. That there is mouse acceleration. That is absolute arse. That is Microsoft's noob mode. It means your cursor speeds up as you move it, which absolutely ruins your ability to get proper muscle memory. There's like 1 or 2 really good Counter-Strike players who use this on. There's like 1 or 2 good StarCraft players, and everybody else thinks it is absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. Like really, really, really awful. So turn that off. Try to get this as neutral as possible is what I would advise as well. But mouse settings are going to be very personal. So what DPI you use, what in-game sensitivity is going to be a little bit more based on exactly what size what resolution you're using, and generally like your own preferred settings. Let's talk about monitor size. You guys, tournament standard is 24-inch. I've recently found out a few people play on 48-inch monitors. I can't believe they do that. To me, it sounds like it would be just way too big. Maybe if it's far enough back, it's okay for you. For me, it seems absolutely crazy, but I can't really say what's better or worse about it. All I can say is if you do ever want to go up and play to a tournament, 24 or 27 inch is going to be much closer to what's actually standard there. That might be getting bigger 5-10 years from now when there are no more 24-inch monitors getting made. But for now, 24 inches is the most standard. The big thing I can say 100% accurately is if you're playing on a laptop, get rid of that shit. Just joking. Just get yourself a monitor off Craigslist or something. If you're playing on a 14-inch laptop screen, a 15-inch laptop screen, the number of people I've coached over the years who are just like, hey man, how do I spot drops better? I just can't spot drops. It's really hard. And then I find out they're playing on a 14-inch screen and I'm like, I can't spot drops on a 14-inch screen. Your minimap's too small. Try to plug yourself into a monitor when you're playing StarCraft. It's going to make life way easier. Beyond that, keyboards. So keyboards, you definitely want to have a separate keyboard and you don't want a flat profile keyboard. You want keys that actually stick up. Preferably mechanical switches are really nice. In RTS games, we love Cherry MX Brown switches or their equivalents from other brands. Essentially, that has a nice point where when you tap it, it pops back up under your finger. So it's very easy to double tap keys. And you're going to be double tapping your control groups a lot in StarCraft. To jump to your army, you'll double tap 2, or I don't know, say you've got a run by squad on number 6. You double tap 6 and it jumps over to that Zerg Ling Bane running into the mineral line. So that's what I would generally advise. But the only other thing really to pay attention to is make sure your F keys are very close to your number keys on your keyboard. There should be maybe half a centimeter gap, 1/4 or 1/5 of an inch at most. Any more than that, and it's going to be very hard to utilize those F keys at the top of your keyboard. I know a lot of players who are like, oh, the F keys are the standard keys you use. They use keyboards with like a big 2-inch gap and their hands having to jump so far up, and it's just absolutely hard. It's not efficient. It's really hard to actually learn. So try to make sure you do that. All right, guys, let's go into the hotkeys now and talk about the hotkeys. What the hell do you want to do with your hotkeys? I use the core. If you guys want to go explore more about the core, I use an experimental version of it that's different to everybody else's because it was never released to the public. But it's basically a hardcore nerd hotkey setup that allows everything to be kind of underneath my hand. And I actually use the right side of the keyboard. I don't recommend this because it's quite hard to get used to. It's different to any way you've used the keyboard before. I recommend you all start with either standard or grid. Standard, I prefer to grid because grid is a little annoying with like obviously having certain keys the same, like corrosive bile is the same key as morph ravager. So sometimes you're accidentally morphing ravagers when you mean to corrosive bile and that sort of thing. But some people still swear by it and love it. The main thing I would advise with any of these is make sure you change keys that are crap. So for instance, with drone, right? We can see over here advanced structures. Infestation pit is on I, ultra cavern is on U. Anything that you got to reach all the way to the right side of the keyboard, same for patrol, try to move those over to the left side of the keyboard, just so that you're not trying to run all over the place with your hand or doing anything crazy like that. That is just going to massively slow you down. And that's the main thing. Really, that's the biggest one, is take any keys that are really hard to reach and just move them over to the left side of the keyboard and experiment with what works for you and feels natural for you. The only other thing that you need to change is if you're planning to use camera location keys. The default camera locations absolutely suck. Basically, normally the way we use camera locations is you want to be able to go Control F1 to create camera location 1, and then press F1 and it'll jump you to your main base. Control F2 to make your second camera location, F2 to jump there. You can see the defaults here are Control F5 to F8 and Control Shift F5 to F8, which are just ridiculous. Ain't nobody pressing those keys. That is absolutely disgusting. So if you guys want to use camera locations, the default here, what you'd want to do is you just go through and change it like so. There we go. Now you might only ever use 4 camera locations, but if you do want to use all 8, we might as well set it up just so it's consistent. So we're just going to change all of these to Control F8. And then jump to locations have to correspond. So location 1, that's create location 1. So obviously this should be F1, F2, and so on. You can go down that whole list, right? You gotta actually press the right one though. Awesome. And that's going to allow you to use those camera locations. Like I said, I don't technically use these keys, but this is the most standard way of doing it. If you do want to use, you find the F keys hard to use, or you want to explore a more ergonomic one, look up the core. If you want a less hardcore version of the core, you can use the core Lite, which uses the left-hand side of the keyboard, but it allows those camera locations to be underneath where your hand's resting. You just have to use a modifier in order to call them up. Hardcore nerd stuff, don't stress out over it. Now, there is one downside of doing this. Because we've taken over F1, F2, that does mean we've removed a few keys, guys. So you've got to be wary that you've now gotten rid of some unit management keys. Idle Worker has now been unbound, as has select army units. Now we're going to leave select army units unbound because that's a really bad habit that players get into. If we really need to select our whole army, there's still going to be a button above the minimap that we can actually click on to select our entire army everywhere across the map. But that should be reserved for emergency situations. And we want to make sure we have that unbound from the start, no matter how beginner you are, because it's just going to make the game much easier to get used to managing your units correctly. And right from the start, we're going to be control grouping our army straight into groups the moment we turn them into eggs. And it's going to allow us to just manage our units much better. And especially with the Zerg Ling Bane style we're teaching this time, this is going to be way more effective. So we're going to leave that unbound. But idle work is a really useful key. So we're going to put that on F. Oh, sorry. Wrong key. We're going to put that on tilde. So that's the little squiggly line just to the left of 1 right there. And of course, I'd have to go back to the camera keys since I just got rid of F1. And there we go. Awesome. Now, one last special thing I wanted to set up for this Bronze to GM is something I haven't actually shown how to set up in the previous ones, but I have talked about it. And that is, guys, a dumping key. That's right. A goddamn dumping key. Now, oh, look at this. This is like actually Dot's hotkeys. I've set this up for Dot's control groups by the looks of it on this. That's not normal. Anyways, okay, so the dumping key is something which we should absolutely set up from the start because this makes control group stealing so easy. Essentially, what we're going to do, and we're going to use spacebar for it, but like I said, it's up to you. If you guys end up using, say, the spacebar to jump between your bases and you use that inject method, which we'll explain in a little bit, you might want to use a different key. But for us right now, guys, create control group 10. We don't want that one. We want to scroll down to create control group 10 and take away units. And we're going to make that spacebar, okay? And what that means is whenever we select units, by hitting spacebar, we basically remove them, whatever control group they're on. We remove them from that and throw them onto control group 0. Now, why do we do that? Just to get rid of them. We're never going to press 0. It's too far on the right side of the keyboard. But this just gets rid of them from our control group. So if you've got your army on 2, but you want to grab a bunch of units and take them off that group, we just select those units with a box, we press spacebar, and they're going to be off. We'll talk more about the details of that later, but setting this up early is going to be fantastic. Okay, guys, so let's talk about the in-game settings really quickly. The main one is to turn your graphics down. I have a beast of a graphics card. You might as well. That doesn't matter when it comes to StarCraft. A lot of StarCraft settings are CPU intensive, and it'll often tell you. So shaders, graphics card reliant, you can chuck that on Ultra if you want to. Shadows, on the other hand, actually I'm not sure. I think shadows is also that. Main ones though, effects, you do need to have, I believe, turned up to see certain things. But if you put it up too high, it's gonna really ruin your CPU. If you want, you can put everything on low, and a lot of pro gamers do that to have the highest frames per second, the smoothest play. A lot of players who I talk to who are casual gamers, they say, oh no, it's fine. I play on a laptop, I play on all high settings or all medium or all ultra, it's all good. And then I watch them play, and they are playing on about 10 to 20 FPS, which is like playing a slideshow. It is awful. You will never be able to control things quickly. Because you're waiting for your screen to update half the time. It is appallingly bad. Turn your graphics settings down. At the beginning of the game, you should have a minimum of 150 frames a second because there's no units on the screen, there's not much happening. As the game heats up and there's a big battle, if you're at below 100 FPS at the start of the game, when there's a big battle, your frames per second is going to drastically drop. So turn most of those settings down unless you have an absolute beast of a PC. Remember, StarCraft only really uses one core on your CPU. It's an older game. It's not optimized to use quad cores and that sort of stuff. And as a result, it doesn't matter how good your computer is, you probably need to turn your settings down. I've got a dual PC streaming rig with 2 absolute monsters. I'm still playing with things only on medium and only textures on ultra and physics on high. And even that, if I was playing more competitively, I would turn these settings all way down to actually get smoother gameplay experience. So definitely consider turning those graphics down in general. And crank your gamma up a little bit to make things brighter. Don't be playing down here where you can't see stuff. The brighter the better. You'll see some pros play with it almost like that, where it's irradiating their eyeballs. Sound menu is incredibly personal. Up to you guys to find what works. I do find I don't like ambient sounds because there'll be random like birds squawking on the map and stuff like that. I don't like enabled group sounds, but up to you to figure out what works for you guys here. I'm not going to be too specific on it. Mouse and keyboard is the much more important menu, guys. And this is one where if you need to, you can crank the sensitivity up here. I prefer usually to change the DPI on the mouse if we're using a bigger monitor. I use 51% here, 6 out of 11 in Windows, and 800 DPI on my mouse on a 24-inch monitor. Of course, we are playing in 1080p as well. Up to you guys to find what works for you. But what's more important is down here, guys. Down here, we want to make sure mouse scroll speed is turned up because this by default is on 20%. You want to turn that up to a minimum of 40%. That's what Maru uses. Most pro gamers use 80 to 100%. I use 89 for whatever reason. And that is when you move your mouse to the edge of the screen, it's how quickly the screen moves. We don't want to use that too much because we want to use camera locations and hotkeys to bounce around. But when you do have to use it, you don't want to be waiting for the screen to slowly pan. So start it at 40% and try to gradually work that up to somewhere between 60 and 100% would be my advice. Now, drag scroll speed is just fine. Keyboard scroll speed, I think we should probably actually turn that off completely. You should not be scrolling using the arrow keys on your keyboard. This is something a lot of older gamers have. If I'm playing Civilization, I will scroll with the keyboard. I get it. We've all done it. Stop doing it for RTS games. It's too fast. You can't be scrolling around with those arrow keys. It's so bad. It's really, really inefficient. Also, make sure you disable the Windows key up here as well, just so you're not accidentally fat fingering yourself out of the game. In terms of gameplay, guys, you want to copy these settings here. We want to turn off alerts because the alerts are just white noise. There's too much happening in a game of StarCraft, and they soon go from useful, helpful tidbits to it's just a spam of noise and stuff happening. We want to make sure the build grid's turned on, always show worker status turned on, turn off the simple command card, turn on this show current order indicator. That gives you little markers. So when you tell a unit to move, like, or if you shift click it, it shows little lines to show where those orders are. It's really useful. You also want select all lava off, not the most important one. Enable enemy unit selection so you can check what your opponent's buildings are by clicking on them when you scout and click on their units to check their upgrades. Now we really want display experience points as well because that allows us to very easily see when lots of stuff dies. If you're at home macroing, a little skirmish happens, you quickly jump over there. Those experience points popping up are going to tell you if you've killed the enemy units or not. It also, if I'm, say, trying to blow up a Dark Templar that I can't see, an invisible unit with Banelings by manually exploding them, if I can't see the experience number pop up, it's really hard to tell if I actually killed it or not. Experience points are just really nice for giving you visual indicators of kills, and in the midst of big battles, seeing how much stuff actually died. Now, we want the show unit life bars on always. Some people at even high level prefer damage, but always gives you a lot of visual clarity. It makes it very easy to see exactly where all the units are. It'll seem a little cluttered when you're first getting used to the game, but I definitely recommend it. I think it's far superior for seeing exactly where all the units are and spotting spellcasters in the mix of big armies. You want your control groups on unclickable. There's a little control group marker at, just above the wireframe, and if you click on it, it does stuff, and it's almost always a misclick. People don't usually consciously use it. Florencio might be the only guy who does, and that's because he's a madman. And show flyer helper, always. This is the line. Whenever you've got flying units selected, it shows a line underneath them to the ground. Because of the perspective, that tells you where to aim your spells at enemy flying units, and where to fly your units, where they actually are on the grid, rather than where it looks like they are because of the weird kind of half top-down angle that we're looking at in StarCraft. Now, you want to make sure you also... but best setting. We talked about this last time, guys. /leave general is the first thing you should do down here in the chat. Because otherwise, you're just going to see Trump, 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 and random political arguments. That's basically all people talk about. I don't know. I haven't been in there a while. Maybe they've moved on from Trump. They're probably talking about something else political and stupid, though, and just shouting at each other and saying racist stuff. Generally, it's just crazy people shouting at each other. Instead, you want to go /join Piggy and hop in the Piggy channel, especially if you're in North America, and there's usually some cool cats hanging out in there, so go say hi to them. All right, guys, one more hotkey setting here, guys. We can also go next subgroup. We can add an alternate, which is our forward mouse button, previous subgroup, back mouse button. I do like that to tab through. Personally, I like using those side mouse buttons with my thumb to go forward or back when tabbing through unit selection. It's a cool little bonus. Oh, all right. Let's go getting into the proper games now. And, I forgot to change my hotkeys, so let's go back. Like I said, I'm not going to be using those hotkeys that I told you guys to set up. But there we go. That should be good. Okay, there we go. Back to my normal hotkeys that I'm used to so I can focus on commentating. So first things first, guys. Add to control group 1, build a drone, and then build an overlord, and then build another drone. You'll be supply blocked on 14, but that's okay. Let's get Nigel, put him on control 2, and we're going to click him to the enemy side of the map, just outside the enemy's base, okay? Then we want to double tap 1 to jump home, and we're going to just hold down the drone key. So we've gone select lava, and the moment that overlord pops, we want to build up some drones. And we want to take one of these early ones, and we're going to send it across the map to scout, and then we're going to click that home. Now remember, we want to go up to 17 supply. We want to build a drone, send it down to our natural, and we want to build this hatchery. Notice I'm building that well before the drone gets there, which is inefficient. So it would be more effective if that drone was already there and waiting when I actually had 300 minerals. So that's something you can look for, guys. You always want to have things really, really tight because you want to spend money as quickly as possible. Now let's add that to the hotkey, set the rally point, double tap, and control F2, make that camera location. Now keep building drones behind this in the main base, and let's go for the gas and the spawning pool, okay? Now remember, we're not going to look at our scout early on at all. Our opponent panicked and pulled all their probes accidentally to attack my worker. Don't focus on it. There's a lot of distractions in StarCraft. Don't focus on it. Now notice we've got 16 or actually 17 workers on minerals. So we can take 1 onto that. And notice we're going to select that, build a drone, and click on the gas. So once you've got 3 workers rallied to the gas and 16 on the minerals, we can select our hatcheries and right click on the natural expansion. So all of our drones will automatically rally to that base. Now we also want to go to our 3rd base and go control F3 to make a camera location, 4th base, control F4, and 5th base, control F5. We can build another drone overlord. We can also build an overlord on 20 supply. So we'll put overlord there. We'll grab this overlord and put it here. So remember, we want overlords out front our bases, and then we want a few on the edges as well to see flying units coming in. Now, when your pool's done, you want to go 2 queens and then build 4 zerglings, which is just 2 pairs. And what we're going to do here is a mechanic I'm going to stress a lot more later on, but let's just introduce you to it. It's control clicking eggs. So what you want to do, control click selects all of a unit type. We want to go control click, and then we put control 2. So notice we've just grabbed these zerglings and put them on our army group. Because there's a probe in our base, we're going to kill him, and then we're going to go shift, A move. So they're going to attack the ground, which means they'll move there, killing anything on the way, and then attack back to here, killing any enemy units on the way. Now we want to build a few more drones, so we're going to do that. And look, our queens have popped out, so it's time for our first macro cycle. So jump to the main, inject, jump to the natural, so F1 inject, F2, box the queen, and inject, which is V is the default hotkey for that. Now, because that's our first one, we don't have any lava to really spend, but it's time to build a 3rd base at 32 supply. So we're going to do that. We're also going to build a 3rd queen. We're going to let Letitia out here next to Cersei, and we're going to build an overlord as well. So it's always something where there is little chunks in your build you want to remember. So build a 3rd base, make a 3rd queen, make an overlord. Okay, here's a really good tip, guys. Control Alt F. Look at that. So you can see your frames per second and a bunch of other info in the top left. Really useful. Now remember, when you build a hatchery, guys, shift 1, set the rally point, double tap 1, control F3. So now look at this, guys. Notice how when I go F1, F2, F3, F1, F2, F3. Notice how it's perfectly centered on the hatcheries. And that's why we go through that system early on, just to make it so our bases are really easy to manage. All right, guys. Go to the main, F1, inject, F2, inject. I'm going to get Latifah to spread some creep. She's going to move down to the 3rd. And what do we want to build? Because remember, it's inject, 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 and then we build drones, and then we build overlords. So we're still going to need a few more overlords on the map, so I build an overlord, click. We then reselect a hatchery, number 1, build an overlord, click. Now we can glance at our overlord if we want. We can see Protoss player doing Protoss things. Ignore it, not important for now, okay? Let's do another macro cycle. We really want to build this rhythm. This macro cycle is something that we want to develop into being like tying your shoelaces. When you're first learning this, it's so hard, but it'll become easy and you won't even have to think about doing this after a while. F1, inject. F2, select the queen, inject. F3, select the queen, inject. I'm going to talk more about injecting methods after this game. And then we want to build lots of drones, and we're going to build extra overlords. And now that we've got our ring of vision going up, we're just going to click the overlords to the back. And notice you can right click on the minimap. to send those to the back. Really nice. All right, guys. So the next mark in the build is when our natural gets saturated, which is 16 workers plus, which it's at. We want to build a gas and a baneling nest. So let's go second gas and a baneling nest. And then we're going to... Oh, time for a macro cycle. Inject, inject, inject. Build lots and lots of drones and build some more overlords. Now, we can also, in between our injects, remember, that's every 30-second, our inject. That's our macro cycle as we do. We always do it in the same order. We always inject, then we spend all of our lava, then we build overlords. If you prefer to build the overlords first, to make sure you don't spend all your lava on drones, so you can build like 2-3 overlords and then fill up the rest with drones. A general rule a lot of people like in the StarCraft community is build as many overlords as bases that you're on. If you're on 3 bases, build 3 overlords each cycle. 4 bases, and so on. Generally that works out okay, but as you get bigger economy and more hatcheries, you're going to need to amp that number up. As long as you're keeping a nice healthy supply gap and never getting supply blocked, it's all fine. Another macro cycle, inject, inject, inject. Hold that drone key down, build a few more overlords. Now notice, in between that 30 seconds, we've got time to do all the other stuff. So this base, we need to get these workers, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a mechanic called cloning or deselecting us. So we're going to grab these guys. Let's grab, we want to grab about 18 workers. So that's close enough. Each row is 8, so we know that's 17 workers just by looking at it. 8, 16, 24, right? Now what you want to do is you want to right click on the gas geyser, and then we want to hold down shift, and we want to go left click. And this is going to remove these from our selection. 1, 2, 3, and then the rest we can pull over here to our third base. And notice this is really effective. That's a really effective way of doing that. We also want to change our overall rally point to our third because it's a newer base. And in between doing tasks like that, guess what? Let's go! Lizzie, get the inject going. Cersei, get the inject going. Latifa, get the inject going. Let's go! And because our bases are full of workers, it's time to swap to Zergling production. So we're going to grab the Zerglings, and because Zerglings are army units, we want to control click those eggs and add them to our army key. And if you select number 2 and right click it, you can see all the eggs have these rally points, which tells us we've done that correctly, okay? Now, obviously we're floating tons of money. We're not doing that great. We've got lots of stuff to catch up on. Let's go double Evo chamber and a lair. Remember, we want to do that at some point here. And what else do we want to do? Remember, you want to build macro hatcheries. So normally it's 2 macro hatcheries when we do the build really crisp. But if you've got thousands of minerals, then you want to build lots of hatcheries and a 4th and a 5th base. But there's an army here, guys. So we better pull back. And we don't have Zergling speed. So let's pull back into our main base. If your opponent's attacking and you're not ready, you just grab your army, your economy, your army, you run back. And we want to rally to the very back of our base and try to build more units before we fight. We're going to make a bunch of banelings as well. So I just held the baneling key down, spent all my money on that. And we can try to help defend our queen here, help defend Lizzie there. Now we're going to control click hatchery, shift number 1. Go to the 4th base, shift number 1. Go to the 5th base. Oh, that drone died before it could go build it. No worries. What do we do, guys? Inject. Inject. That one's dead. Cersei's dead. Inject. Build Zerglings. Another hatchery dies. That's okay, guys. Let's make our upgrades. Melee, carapace. If you're not ready to fight, always run backwards. Oh, there's a big scary army. Always run backwards. If you lose a base, you lose a base. It's not the end of the world. Now it looks like our opponent's backed off, so we're going to go down there and rebuild that hatchery. Nope, that's not the case. Okay, guys, so what we're going to do here is we're going to A-move, and you're going to see how bad banelings are when you A-move them. Actually, they kind of did okay. It would have been better if we right-clicked the banelings past to make sure they got right in the center of the enemy units before blowing up. That's a tactic you guys want to do with banelings versus clumped up big chunky Protoss units. Alright guys, let's do an inject. Remember, every time after a fight, macro cycle. Inject, inject, inject. Build Zerglings, shift 2. Now there's more zealots here doing damage. This is not a good situation to be in, guys. But keep doing what you do, okay? So what do? We're going to defend with these Zerglings as they pop out. We're trying to A-move up here. And we will manage to do so. Now, if we want, we could counterattack. But if we do, we're not going to look at it. So let's counterattack to the enemy third. We're not going to look at it, and let's rebuild our economy. Let's rebuild Lizzie, and let's build our bases back up. So third base, natural base, 4th base, and 5th base. And we can also build drones for this gas. Build 3 drones, click there. We've got 1-1 on the way. We lost our Baneling nest. Remember that was on the natural? So let's build a Baneling nest. Build a few more drones here. And let's go here. Shift 1, set the rally points. Shift 1, set the rally point. Shift 1. So we've added all these hatcheries to our control groups. And now, when we've got lots of lava, you can actually do it this way. What we want to do is we want to build 2 rows of drones. That base will be full of workers. And then I would build another base of drones, but uh-oh, there's more Zergling. There's more Zealots coming. Oh no! Magnus isn't giving us time, guys. So we might have to fight with the drones. Now, fighting with the drones is never really a good thing to do because they suck. And that's why they are going to get torn up. It looks like we are going to lose this first game. But you know what? That's exactly what you should expect, guys. You should not be winning your first StarCraft games because you're building good habits. If you win your first games, you're probably doing it by building really bad habits. You're doing, maybe you made a quick battle cruiser, but your economy management's crap and your units aren't in the right control groups and that sort of stuff. So you want to really make sure you actually focus on developing things like the macro cycle and just get that rhythm down. And remember, it's like tying your shoelaces. It's not about doing it perfectly the first time, but it's about getting to the point where you can do it without even thinking about it. All right, that one's going to be over, guys. GG, well played. I don't really have any workers in my main, none in my third. I still have 3,000 minerals, though. Should we GG or should we keep fighting? Let's keep fighting, guys. Let's keep fighting. That's a Colossus. That's pretty good. So let's follow the same rule. Let's rally to the very back. Let's do 1 or 2 more rounds of Zerglings before we throw in the towel, shall we, guys? Let's at least spend all of our money. And we can inject. Oh, but they're up in the production. This is really bad for Zerglings because you see they get all stuck behind each other. So you want Zerglings to fight in the open where they can like surround enemy units. That's where they're more effective. And Colossus and Zealots are both really effective up against Zerglings because these guys do splash damage and Zealots just have a lot of raw damage and hit points, so they're really effective against it. Now, my opponent here is not an actual bronze player. My opponent isn't this the bronze silver part, guys. My opponent's actually 1900 MLR silver too. Now, you might be like, well, where are the bronze players? I need to see the experience in bronze. The experience in bronze is, for the most part, players who are just figuring out what the buttons are, what the units do, and that sort of thing. The reason why we don't play against bronze players in this show is not because I don't want to, it's because they're like unicorns. Have you guys, we all know unicorns are real. People claim they're not. We know they exist, but they're so rare and they're elusive. Taming a unicorn is basically impossible. Likewise, finding a bronze player in the wild and getting them to play against a streamer is nearly impossible. Now, every time I say this, people's like, oh, I'm a bronze player. I'm actually bronze. 90% of the time, they're players who've watched thousands of games and they play like a gold, platinum, or diamond player. Like, we've had that multiple times. The other times, we go, okay, cool, please hop in and actually play against us. Sign up, ! B2GM, sign up. Because any bronze player will have priority right now here at the start of the show. What's great, though, is it doesn't really matter what the opponent does. It's more about us showing what we're doing, and I think we did a really good job here of showing some great skills. GG, well played to Magnus, guys. Let's get into the next game. Once you click past and the Banelings are in the spot you like, do you A-move them? 100%, yeah, just A-move them. Don't manually detonate, just A-move. You could right-click specific enemy units if you really want. Yeah, it's up to you, Abacus. It's a bit situational, right? Because, like, yeah, it kind of depends a little bit, but just A-move's pretty good. Yeah, I would say A-move's the safest bet. All right, guys, so we're going into game 2. This one's against a silver 1-player 2300, and it's Zerg versus Zerg. Now, as we get higher levels, Zerg versus Zerg is going to be a matchup where we play very different to the other matchups, but for now, build a drone, control 1 on that hatchery, control F1 after double tapping. Nigel, we go on our army 2, send it across the map to outside the enemy base. And then we build an overlord, and then we build a drone. So we want to be trying to build a drone the moment we get 50 minerals. Build the overlord before that, the moment we get 50 minerals. And this overlord always sits outside our natural. Just out there, guys. Now, remember, when this overlord pops, we want to immediately be building drones. So select lava, and be holding that drone key down, bam. We want to grab a drone, send it across the map, and then queue it back to the minerals, and then we build one more drone. Now we're going to be going 17 hatch, and the reason we're doing that, I know experienced players are like, why are you teaching 17 hatch? It's bad. It is because if you do a scout, 17 hatch is actually better than 16 hatch, but only if you do a drone scout. and we do a drone scout so that we will be able to survive cheese without going pool first. Just a different way of playing. All valid. All right, guys, shift 1, double tap, and control F2. Now we want to build 2 more drones. Remember, we want to go 18 gas, 17 pool, guys. So let's take the gas. And remember, let's try and grab these drones and move them over there ahead of time. So the moment we have 200 minerals, we can put the pool down. If that's a bit too high level for you, you can still just box these drones, go build gas, build pool. Totally fine. Now that that's done, notice we have 16 workers on minerals, guys. So the next 3 we build and we click onto the gas geyser. And that means we've got 16 plus 3 equals full main base. So we can already jump to our natural, select the hatcheries, right click there. Now while we have a moment of downtime, let's go to our 3rd and go control F3, 4th base, control F4, and 5th base, control F5. Not only that, we're also going to go control F6 for my rally point. So F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6. Cool. Let's build 1 more drone, and then 20 supply, we want to build an overlord. And in Zerg vs Zerg, rather than watching the edges, it's more important to get overlords in the middle of the map first and foremost. Now when your spawning pool's finished, we can select the hatcheries and build 2 queens. We can also build 4 zerglings. And remember, what do we do with those 4 zerglings? Put them on number 2. That overlord sitting there is a free kill if our opponent's not careful. Let's hope he pulls that back. Now just keep selecting a hatchery and building drones pretty constantly in this early stage. Later on, we're only going to produce after injecting, but for now, we're producing just select the hatchery, build drones. Select the hatchery, build drones. We also want to remember that Zergling speed that we forgot last game. Forgetting Ling speed could really hurt us. Now let's grab a drone, send it over to our 3rd, and we can build that here. 31 or 32 supply. And did I just hear Lizzie? Is that Lizzie's in the house? Inject the main. Cersei's in the house. Inject the natural. Slight bit of lag there. Woo! Sorry guys, my main internet connection was down this morning. And we are struggling a little bit. Let's hope that works out in a second. Apologies if there's any lag. After your 3rd hatchery, we go queen and then overlord, remember. And then we can build some extra drones after that. And you know what? We're supply blocked, so we might as well build a few extra overlords. And remember, we can put those on the edges now just to spot the air units. We just saw the inject pop. Now it's tempting to just inject there. Never inject there. Why? Muscle memory. We always want to do it in the same order, guys. So tell Cersei to wait. Lizzie inject the main. Cersei inject the natural. And then build drones. And then build an overlord. Or 2. And click those to the back, okay? We really want to build this habitual nature where we do things in the same order over and over again so that we can do it without thinking. All right, Latifah's on the field. She's going to spread creep and then shift click to the 3rd base, okay? Very nice. All right, guys, is it time for the next inject cycle? Sometimes you'll jump back a bit early, and you always want to make sure your queens have enough energy, but they do. So let's go inject, build some drones, build some overlords. Now, at this point, we've already got a big supply gap. We just built 3 more overlords, so that's more than enough. And notice, we're at the next part of our build. Our natural base is full of workers. Remember, when that's saturated, what do? Gas, Baneling Nest. And you know what, guys? We're already oversaturated here, so we might as well just grab 3 of these guys. You can grab 2, and then shift-click on another one to grab 3, and then right-click them on the gas. And then we can rally to the 3rd base. And it looks like Latifah was in a bit of a tiff. Looks like she fought a Zergling and killed it. Good job, Latifah. Inject time. Let's inject Latifah. No! Don't inject Latifah. Remember, Lizzie, then Cersei, then Latifah. Always follow the same order. Then hold down that drone key. And then build some more overlords. Except, I'm going to skip the overlords this time because I've got 50 supply free. So we're just going to build more drones, okay? Alright guys, what's next in the build? Well, as we're droning up this 3rd, what does our build order say? Let's go back to our document. Let's take a little glance. And I'll show you guys this in between the games. You guys can see it down below, by the way, if you type !B2GM doc if you're watching live, or in the description of the YouTube video. And that is going to be, of course, guys, let's go double Evo and a lair. And time for another macro cycle. Let's do it. Lizzie, Cersei, Latifah, inject, build a bunch more drones, and build a few more overlords as well. Now you can see we've got that base is a little undersaturated. If you guys ever build too many buildings in the main and this gets really low, that could be a problem. So we're just going to build like 3 or 4 workers and right-click them in the main minerals. So we don't want to change the rally point of all the hatcheries. We'd rather those be over here. Just a few drones like that can be nice though. But at this point, we're full of workers. And when you're full on workers, what do we need to do? Let's actually do it this time, guys. Macro hatch. 4th base. Oh, That was 5th base, sorry. And 4th base and 5th base. But there's an attack here, guys. All right, so let's go build Zerglings. And remember, guys, if you're playing against me, don't be afraid to beat me, guys, even in these early games. I can't tell if this is just how silver players play or if they're trying to let me win. Inject, inject, inject. Obviously, I'm playing against volunteers of varying ranks. I can never tell if they're trying to be nice because they know I'm teaching and it's like one of my first games in the show, or if they're genuinely attacking with 3 roaches and 1 slow Zergling 10 minutes in the game. But, well, that's actually a lot of roaches coming my way, guys. Oh, okay. So let's pull back. Inject. Inject, inject. Nothing but Zerglings. We've got plenty of supply free. Let's try and make 1/1 upgrades. And Baneling speed. And let's control click the hatcheries. Shift 1. Now let's move our Zerglings back. Remember, if there's a big army we're not ready for, move back. Build more Zerglings. I want to go for 1 big surround, which is not going to work because that is an obscene amount of roaches, that is. We're going to grab our drones and try to fight as well. That is a crazy number of roaches with roach speed. My God, don't do my old Bronze to GM. How dare you? The funny thing is, with the way I'm playing, I actually do think I could win games in Bronze League, but against Silver 1 players, apparently spending this long explaining things is going to be a little bit tough, because we are quite far behind the curve from where we should be. Now, arguably, this is the matchup where Mass Zergling is the weakest, but that was a crisp timing, very well executed from my opponent, and it does look like they're doing my old Bronze to GM. I'm sure there's already haters. They're going, old Bronze to GM beats new Bronze to GM. Roaches are easier. But that was pretty crisp. GG, well played. I guarantee you, my opponent does not play that well on ladder. But here, because they know I'm busy explaining things, they felt the pressure was off, and they played a bit more confidently, which is cool. So I'm probably getting a harder experience than you guys would normally get. 6.5 minutes, 140 supply of speed roach? There's no way. They did transfer workers out of their main 2 minutes before the mineral patches ran out, which is kind of hilarious. But that is insane. That is crazy. You will get to plat so quickly if you do this every game, Zerg. If you do this confidently every game, you'll easily be in Platinum League. Like, it doesn't matter what you're up against. They could have air units that you don't hit up. You will never lose a game. You will never lose a game if you macro this. Well played, mate. What's the APM? 134 as well. Mine's at 92 average. GG, well played. Outskilled, man. Alright guys, we're going to be playing Magnus again, but he's playing Terran this time. He's about Silver League with Terran as well. Now keep in mind, games like that last one, you're going to get a very different experience between players that are watching my stream and in the community and have watched Bronze to GM and are applying builds and doing it as focused as they can, and most of the people on ladder who are just kind of hopping on and playing some games. So what's cool about this Bronze to GM is it's going to give you guys a much harder view in average of what the ladder experience is. Whereas the regular Bronze to GM, I think, made it look almost easier than it really is because, of course, you know, me using my skill and stuff to make it easier. So this should be really fun. Let's talk about the build, guys. So we've got the first Overlord, Nigel, is going to go sit outside the enemy base. We're building up to 17 drones. We're going to send one across the map and then queue it back. And then we're going to send another drone down to build our hatchery, okay? And notice we're sending it. We should send it at 150 minerals, so it gets here right on 300. You see, we're a little bit late. We missed it by 50 minerals. Could have sent that earlier. Shift 1, double tap 1, Shift F2, or Control F2, sorry. And let's build 2 more drones. And remember, then we want to go for the gas and the pool. Like I said, bonus points if you pull the drones over individually, or we can just be lazy and go build gas. And I don't quite have the money, but I'm trying to build the pool and do it that way. But notice how there's a few seconds delay. So if you want to start working on pulling drones individually, never too early to do that. Now we want to build the next 3 drones after the gas and the pool, and we want to rally them onto the gas. You might think, but oh, you're only on 15 out of 16. But remember, that's going to become 16 out of 16 in a moment. And that's because this drone is coming home to be the last worker mining on that base. All right, let's go set up our camera locations. So we've got the 3rd base, Control F3, 4th base, Control F4, 5th base, Control F5, and of course the rally point, Control F6. Let's build 1 more drone onto the gas. Oh, actually we built an extra drone there, so we can send that to the natural. And we can build another Overlord, and we'll put that over here. So we'll have 1 Overlord outside the base, just chilling. About here. sit it somewhere where it's hard for them to get at. And our spawning pool's done. So what are we going to do, guys? Build 2 queens, build 4 zerglings, and remember, control click the egg and control 1. So that's the new army key. So that drone that returned home is no longer there. Now, early game, so what do we do? Select hatchery, build drones. Select hatchery, build drones. Select hatchery, build drones. Select hatchery, build drones. And while we're doing that, we want to grab a drone and send it to that 3rd base. Notice we can do that really easily. What did I do, guys? Say I'm over here with my zerglings defending a reaper. We go F2, box a drone, F3, build a hatchery. See how good those camera locations can be? So you build these little habits. It's really sick. Oh, we forgot to change the rally point to the natural, guys. That's why our main's oversaturated. We'll fix that in a moment, though, because what's more important? Lizzie's going to inject, Cersei's going to inject. And we're going to build a few more drones, an overlord, and another overlord. And guess what? Our 3rd queen went down, and we haven't started Latifah yet, so we should probably have done that together. Latifah, overlord, queen, and then done the macro cycle. So that's me doing things out of order. Bad habit. Always try to stick to doing things in the exact same order. The more you do things in a random order, the harder it is to learn. So you actually make things way more difficult for yourself the more variance you add in. The more simple and consistent and repeatable, the better you'll get at StarCraft. Lizzie's going to inject, Cersei's going to inject. We're going to build a whole bunch of drones and an overlord on the edge of the map. And we've already got some overlords going out, so that should be our full ring of vision. Any future overlords, we can just click in the back here. Okay, guys? Latifah's out, so she's going to spread creep and head to the 3rd. And did we center that camera location? No, we did not. So add to 1, double tap, control F3. Beautiful. All right, guys. Well, it's time for another macro cycle. Let's go. F1, inject. F2, inject. F3, we don't quite have the energy. Build a ton of drones. And you can see I've got extra supply free, so we'll skip the overlord on this one. But if we built a few extra, we'll build a few extra. We'll be consistent. When you're this low level, don't skip ahead. Just do things the same way every game. Now our natural is full of workers, so let's rally to the 3rd, and let's go for a gas and a baneling nest. So remember, we box the drones. Don't do this, guys. How many people do I see going, build baneling nest? And it's like, dude, why do that? Just build both at the same time. It's so much easier. And we can also box 3 workers and click them on. So if you guys struggle with that, you can always just do it like here on the edge. Just try to box 3 workers. If you get 2, and then you click another one, that works too, right? Now, obviously, those were extra guys, so I'll put them back. And time for another macro cycle, guys. Inject. Lizzie, Cersei, Latifah. Lots and lots of drones, and some more overlords to the back. Now, what have we forgotten? Ling speed. We were meant to start that the moment we had 100 gas. We also should now be going double Evo and Lair. When do you go double Evo Lair, guys? Well, after the 2nd gas and Baneling Nest. When did we do that? That was when this base was full of workers. And then as we're rallying drones to the 3rd, whenever we have spare money, we go for the double Evo and the Lair. And then we also can do double macro hatchery. Notice how we're doing this much earlier this game. That's going to give us more production. Let's control click shift 1. And what do we do? Whenever we're doing these in-between tasks, you want to squeeze those in between the macro cycles. As soon as you finish them, jump to the main, inject. Lizzie, Cersei, Latifah, inject, inject, inject. Build some drones, but only a few, because that base is already almost full. And once we've got 3 mineral lines full, bam, 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 we swap to Zerglings. So all we're doing is Zerglings now. Control click the egg, shift 2. And we can also go 1-1 upgrades. And you've still got money though, Pig. You've still got money. So let's build a 4th and a 5th base. So let me show you guys, what do they just do? Let's pull those guys back. What do we do? So we're over here with our Zerglings, and we go F1, box the workers. F4, build hatchery. F5, build hatchery. So F5, BH, if you're on standard hotkeys. Depends on what hotkeys you're using. But if you can build that muscle memory, that'll be amazing. And then right after, inject, inject, inject. Build Zerglings. And then we need to build more overlords. But notice I don't have any supply free right now. Lava. So we're just going to keep selecting lava here and trying to build overlords as they pop out after that inject cycle, okay? Now, obviously, we're not really focusing on creep spread or anything. Not important until later on. Let's get Baneling speed. Normally, you want to go 1-1 and Baneling speed at the same time, just to make sure you don't forget it. And that's going to work really, really well. What about scouting, Pig? Well, guess what? As we get higher, we're going to do some more scouting. For now, your money's floating. Inject, inject, inject. If you build better, you will win. Go to your 4th, Shift 1. Grab all your hatcheries, rally there. Go to F5, Shift 1. Inject, inject, inject. Build Zerglings. Let's make some Banelings as well, guys. Making some Banelings here. And now it's time, since we've got our macro done, right? I've built basically all the buildings I need. I've got 7 hatcheries. I've got upgrades. I'm doing nothing but massing Ling Bane. What can we do here? One thing is we can tell Nigel to go scout. Unfortunately, Nigel's about to get his face blown off for being a pervert. His job is to be a bit of a pervert, but that still is not what he enjoys. So let's send some Zerglings out. Now I'm going to do this really quickly, guys, and I'll explain what I just did later. But we just sent 3 Zergling scouts out. For now, inject, 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 build Zerglings, and also build Overlords, and click to the back. Now I just built 9 Overlords. I'm already at 146 supply. An Overlord supply is 8 supply, so that's more than I will need for the rest of this game, okay? All right, so what about the scouting, guys? Notice that if we're using select all army, or if we don't remove these guys from our control group, we accidentally, any scouts we send out, whenever we move our army around, we accidentally pull them back from their scouting locations. So it's very important for us to use our cloning to do it. So let's start with a more medium-sized army because it's a bit simpler there. Basically, let's say this is your army. You want to go for a scout. We're going to right-click on the minimap. And then what we're going to do, this is cloning. We're going to, or deselecting, shift deselecting or cloning is what we call this. So basically we're saying go to scouting location 1. And then we're going to shift left-click on a Zergling. And we're going to say go to scouting location 2. Shift left-click. And then right-click scouting location 3, shift left-click. And then we can bring whatever is remaining in our selection home, and we can go control 2. So we've now remade the army group, and whenever we select 2 and move it around, notice those units are still staying on location. So essentially all you're doing is you're giving everyone in your selection an order, and we'll send a few to these top bases now, and then you're removing them. So right click up there, shift left click, right click up there, shift left click, right click here, control 2. And that way we've separated 2 Zerglings from our control group, and you can see them running off on that minimap, okay? That is a battlecruiser, my friends. Oh my god. So what do you do against battlecruiser? You build a bunch of spores near it, and then you build 2 spores at your other bases. And you select the hatcheries, and I want you to hold that queen key down. Maybe not hold it down, but we're going to build like 8, 9, 10 queens, something like that. Now we just lost a base of mining, which sucks. So we're also going to build a base of mining over there. Now, technically what you normally do is you just go kill them in this scenario. You make banelings and go kill them. We're not going to do that just so we can show you guys the response, okay? So now that these spores are ready, let's try and root some spores underneath. And we're going to build some drones back here. Click on gas. Build some drones. Click on the gas. Now it looks like there's some units hanging at the top as well. Now here's the tough part, guys, and this is we're going to introduce a queen/defense key control group. Control click the queens. We're going to put these on number 5 would be what you should put it on. For me, it's number 4 on my keyboard. We're just going to move that, guys. So we're going to go around, get every queen, and put them all on this defense key, and we'll spread a little bit of creep around. We can move that spore crawler there to kill that. This can't shoot buildings, it can only shoot units. Alright. And any new queens that come out can be injecting queens. So we still have, if we move all of these creep/defense queens to the front, 7 queens is enough to beat 1 BC. We go to the main. New Lizzie, inject. New Cersei, inject. New Latifah, inject. And here's a hot tip, guys. When the game gets messy like that, it's really easy to lose track of where your economy is. Ah, stuff's happening! What do you want to do? Hover over the supply. Check it out. That top number is army supply. The bottom number is worker count. And my workers, normally we want to hover about 54 workers. But because we were taking damage and we were taking economy damage, we built an extra base of workers over here, didn't we? And that's why we ended up a bit higher than we normally are. Because I thought we were going to take even more damage there. So remember, after building the spores everywhere, and remember, like with a BC, it was 2 spores a base and spores in between each base. And they chew up a lot of drones. So we built extra workers to replace that. Yeah. New Lizzie, new Cersei, new Latifah, injects, keep building Lings. And guess what, guys? We can start 2-2. And you always want to go melee and carapace upgrades, okay? Now, because they've gone BC, if they kept building BCs, we would drop a Spire. And guess what? That's a bad Spire spot because it get killed. You want to drop it next to some Spore Crawlers where it's protected. And if you do that, you also need gases. So we would go take 2 gases, build 3 drones, right click. Reselect the hatchery, build 3 drones, right click. Then we can go to our 5th base and do the same thing. If there's an attack, just ignore it. Take both gases, select the hatcheries, build 3 drones, right click. Build 3 drones, right click. Inject. Lizzie, Cersei, Latifah, inject, inject, inject. And what do we got here, guys? Oh, it's mass BC. Okay, so we need to go kill my opponent. So what are we going to do? We're going to make a lot of gas into Banelings. And we're going to make one more big round of Zerglings. So we're going to go across the map and see if we can blow up the economy and force the battle cruisers to go home. And in the meantime, all of our queens are going to come over here and try to fight against this. But we only want to fight against that many BCs if we have Spore Crawlers. So we're just going to try and defend the Spire, okay? Now, my army accidentally attacked into what appeared to be a building command center, guys. We're going to wait for all these Banelings to arrive, because that's what breaks walls down. And we're going, there's BCs! Ah! It's okay, when the Spire's done, we're going to make Corruptors which hard counter BCs, okay, guys? But we need supply to do that. So let's build an Overlord, and more importantly, let's clear some supply while also killing our opponent. So we're going to come over here, and whenever you attack, never A-move across the map because your units will be spread out. Always go for a big clump up and then go in. On the downside, that does mean splash damage absolutely ruins you. On the upside, it means your units all come in together and aren't all split up. Now, this might not seem great, just A-move into the main base so they kill stuff, but you're going to kill a lot of their economy here. And then, I can build Corruptors. So we don't need to keep looking at that. It's basically done all it's going to do this game, guys. We've got him down to like almost no economy. Select your bases and build Corruptors. And we're going to put these on our second army group. So notice we've got number 2, but now we have number 3. So double tap 2, double tap 3, double tap 2, double tap 3. If you really want, you can make upgrades for them and that sort of stuff. But look, guys, we've got queens. So first time using queens to fight, attack move. And you want to use transfuse. So you want to go transfuse, J, click. J, click. J, click. And you can see we're not doing it very well, but we are doing it. Now you want to get your Corruptors out. We've got this round of Corruptors, and we can probably just go across the map and win the game. But a really good habit to build for anyone is rebuild your economy. Notice this base is oversaturated. Let's grab these drones. So what you can do, notice it selects the queens first. You can either tab using that side mouse button that we edited in for tab back and forwards, or just hit tab on your keyboard. We can rebuild the main. And we can also take a few more bases, because as the game goes on, if you don't take more bases, your economy will dry up. We can also see our economy is still at 54 drones, which is not bad. So we're okay with that. But in general, when you get in these messy situations, if you just build 16 drones, click them on a base, and then get back in an inject cycle, that's going to work pretty well. So we're going to have a new Lizzie. So notice we're going to take this queen off the hotkey here. So how do we do that? We select number 3, we then go shift left click, and then we remake that queen hotkey. So it's just 2 queens now without her. And let's go back to injecting, guys. Inject, Cersei, Latifah, build Zerglings as well. Oh, I can't build Zerglings, so we've got to rebuild our spawning pool, guys. So what do we build instead? Well, how about we build more Corruptors for now? Add them to our key, and oh, check it out, guys. Now let's attack move. You know what's a big bonus in this scenario is if you actually shift right click on them to focus fire. That's a really good way of doing it. But you know what? For now, as long as we just attack move, we can't do any harm. Most players, when they're trying to click on things, they keep misclicking and their Corruptors are just flying back and forwards, or they start attacking their own unit or something silly. If you just attack move, remember that's A and left click on the ground. Or for me, it's P because I use a weird hotkey setup. So our Corruptors can now fly to the other side of the map and they can kill any other flying units. They can't attack ground, but they can do a wee-wee. They have caustic spray, which is basically what happens if you guys have ever been out drinking all night and then you wake up in the morning a little dehydrated, and you know when it, like, you go to the bathroom and it stinks and it's like a real dark, it's almost brown, and you're like, oh god, how, you know, that's basically what the Corruptors can do to the enemy buildings. So you can just A-move in, kill these battle cruisers, which they are, like we said earlier, the hard counter for, and you can also do the wee-wee. Now, you can, basically, we can go J, shift, and then we want to spam out left clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 can be there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're just kind of spamming clicks across these buildings, okay? Now, if there's Marines underneath you, that's not the smartest way to do it, but it's just so comically funny to watch units piss on the enemy buildings that we're willing to sacrifice our Corruptors for this. And we're also going to shift-click them home, so when they're done peeing on their buildings, some of them will survive. Alright, guys. Let's inject, inject, inject. Remember, whenever you're done with a fight, or a micro defending something, inject. That's the first thing you do. And we're going to build Zerglings now, because we've killed all the air units. So we control-click the eggs, we're making Zerglings and Banelings again. And check this out, guys, we've got idle workers. You can select that, or you can control idle worker button. If you put it on tilde, you can go control tilde, or you can control-click that one. Either way, and we can just send this to one of these new bases, right? Beautiful. This base is also oversaturated. These bases are mining out. So if you can transfer some workers around, it's nice, but it's not the most important thing. Let's go again. Inject, inject, inject. Build Zerglings. And oh, look at this, guys. Big attack coming my way. Let's pull back. Remember, always pull back when you're not ready to fight. And we're just going to make Banelings there, okay? So he's going to come in and do some damage. Now, the Baneling Nest and the Spire might go down. So what would be a good idea is if we go to one of these corner bases and we rebuild both of those, just in case. Remember that what you really want to be dealing with, guys, in these situations is just not panicking and give yourself room to breathe. The number of players who see an enemy army and run into it and just derp is so bad. But instead, we made Banelings, and look at this fight. Look how one-sided that is, as opposed to A-moving the units I had and turning this into a disaster. GG, well played. Played really good. Good to see the BCs and stuff. And good to learn a bit of a response. And I think that's an important response. This is something which I've already written down in the notes as well. So let's go out to our document. And there's a reason this was already in the notes. It's because battle cruisers, I always say, are one of the easiest units in the game to use. And they are really, really hard to get used to dealing with. I get so many questions about BCs. How do I deal with BCs? It would be much easier if I scouted. And once we get higher into Silver and Gold League, we are going to start sending Nigel in for a scout each game, going to give us a much higher chance of seeing this ahead of time. We also could have immediately counterattacked when the first BC came in and smashed his wall and probably won the game straight away, and it never would have gone as far. But response to BC is a heavy air harass. It's a spore in each base plus connecting spores between bases total, 5 total. Now, if blindsided, may need to build like 5 spores right near the BC itself. And then root them, and then move them. Because that's what we did that game, right? But if you spotted ahead of time, you only need 1 spore in each base. But instead, we built more because we were like, whoa, I'm completely surprised I have no response to this. We built a few more queens, and we got every single queen we had on the creep defense key. Build 3 new queens to replace Lizzie and the crew. Lair, Spire, Corrupted Production. But we also need 4 more gases if we start doing all that. Now, we're always going to have a lair, so I think we can just say Spire into Corrupted Production. We probably don't need the lair. Alright guys, still slumming it here in Silver League. We're up against Dark Matter in a Zerg versus Zerg. Continuing to work on these fundamentals. And let's really try and get this build a little bit tighter. Now, there is one thing I want to address at some point. Get wrecked. Let's send Nigel across the map. Build a drone. Let's control group 1. Double tap. Control F1. Control F2. And we want to build an Overlord. So the moment we have 100 minerals, we build the Overlord. And we click that outside our base. And we want to reselect our hatchery and build a drone. Hot tip, actually, guys. With our second Overlord, this is like Nigel's little brother. An even better thing is if you can click it on the natural and then out front, or even just sit it above your natural at first, it's just going to see if your opponent's doing like a sneaky cannon rush or something like that. Now, if you guys don't want to learn camera locations, I know I'm showing that as my primary way of playing, and I do really advocate for it, but you don't have to necessarily do that. Let's send that drone to scout and then bring it back. And let's send another drone down to build a hatchery. So later on in this game, at the end of this game, I'd like my Twitch chat to all shout out, show alternate inject method, and we'll show you the spamming inject method that you would use if you're not using camera locations. I still think camera locations are such a boon that'll help you way down the track. But some people, their F keys are too far away. They don't want to learn the core light or something like that, which makes it a little bit easier to reach the camera locations by sticking them under your hand. And I understand that. I mean, there's players who get to very high levels without learning those mechanics. And there is a base camera method, which is not my favorite method because it has some issues, but we'll show you that later on. For now, let's keep talking about the build, guys. So we want to build 3 drones and click them onto the gas. And then we want to rally to the natural expansion. We want to build 1 more drone, and then we want to build an overlord. Actually, we want to build 19 overlord is probably better. So we go 19 overlord. We'll click that one to the middle of the map. Because remember, Zerg versus Zerg, you want vision outside their base, vision in the middle, and vision back here. In fact, we could even send it to the front so that we have 1 overlord there and 1 overlord there. And we just want to keep building drones here and see what we can do. Let's go to the 3rd, control F3. 4th, control F4. 5th, control F5. Spawning pool's done, so we want to build 2 queens and those 4 zerglings. Let's control click the egg and we can go control 2. All right. And keep just selecting the hatcheries and building drones, and let's send this guy over to the 3rd. So why are we sending him to the 3rd? Because remember, we want to build that hatchery right on 300 minerals. For now, we're going to start Ling speed once we hit 100 gas. We remembered to start Ling speed for once. Yes! Don't be worried about forgetting things, guys. Everyone forgets stuff when they're starting out. It all just takes time. And our queens are going to pop, so let's get ready. Lizzie, inject. Cersei, inject. So you want to go always your first injects if you do your build really tight, and then you build the 3rd base. Let's shift 1, set the rally point, double tap 1, control F3. Set the rally point to the front. And what do we do after the hatch? We go Latifah starts up, and then we build another overlord, which we'll click out front to 3rd base. And it's back to just standard stuff. Building drones, all that good stuff. Awesome. All right, we're feeling really good now, guys. This is fantastic. Let's go to the main. Inject Lizzie. Inject Cersei. Hold down the drone key. Now, you're a little supply block, but don't worry, that overlord's about to pop out. So we build a bunch more drones here. And we build a few more overlords at the end of that cycle, as per usual. So this is really nice. If you want to move the overlords a bit further out, you can do it. But for now, we're just building a few overlords, just clicking them to the edges to make sure we're not surprised by anything. And we're just chilling. Latifah's out, so she's going to spread creep and then shift A move to the 3rd base where she can inject. Now, why is she A moving? That way she'll just defend herself from any Zerglings. Remember that earlier game? She almost died to a Zergling. We went and looked at her. She was on red at points. But time to inject. F1, V click, F2, V click, F3. We don't have energy yet. Building drones, drones, drones. And our new overlords will all click to the back. So check it out, guys. With all the new drones about to pop out, this is going to be saturated. So let's go. Gas and Baneling Nest. And look at that. We're way oversaturated, so we can immediately grab 3 drones, put them on the gas, and rally to our 3rd base. Now, it's tempting to inject with Latifah. Remember, always in the same order. Jump to the main, inject. Jump to the natural, F1, inject, F2, inject, F3, inject. Hold that drone key down. And we're going to build some more overlords. Now, guess what, guys? We're going to actually introduce a part of the build I have not actually been doing, which is we are going to start building a round of safety Zerglings after this game before droning the 3rd. So after going Baneling Nest and 2nd gas, we're going to build a big round of Zerglings to keep us safe and then go to drone the 3rd. We're not doing that yet, but it's something we'll add in. Let's go double Evo chamber and a lair. Let's stare at our overlord. Oh, overlord's dying. Yeah. No, don't do that, guys. Inject, inject, inject. But we see lots of roaches, so we're going to have to go into nothing but Zergling production, guys, because it looks like we're going to get killed. We'll pull this overlord back as well. And what do we need back at home? What's the next part of the build? You guys know it. Double macro hatch. We can also get our 1-1 upgrade started. That'll make our Lings a lot better. Now remember, we died earlier to roaches, and in general, Lings aren't good versus roaches. So technically, the best thing you should always be doing, inject, 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 build Zerglings. And we're already almost at the drone count we need. We're only about 6 drones short anyway. But look at that big ball of roaches. If you see a big army, you always react and swap into army production, guys. Normally, if we backstab here, it would be way more effective. But instead, we're just going to morph Banes and try to fight this on the front. And we might need to pull our drones and stuff in as well. So let's go. We're going to pull our drones. We're going to attack into this. And remember what I said about Banelings are better if we move past? So let's try and move past with everything, and then A-move when you're in the middle of your opponent's army. That's the way to do it. Now, it's easy to stare at a fight like this, but all we're going to do is try to chase, and then there's nothing else you can do to micro there. So inject, 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 build more Zerglings. Now, we crushed his army, so we can counterattack. We'll A-move across the map. Or A-move not across the map, but to the staging point, so a bit outside their base. And then we can get these dudes back on mining. Now, it's easy to just click them back, or we can do the cloning. Right-click, shift, left-click, and then right-click. All right, now let's go look at our attack. Do you think we can attack? Ooh, it's a lot of units. Let's not do that. Let's back off. Let's not do that. So we'll pull back for now, and what are we gonna do, guys? F1, inject, F2, inject, F3, inject. How nice is that? Now, also, there is a method, which a lot of the pros use these days also, where they actually put these queens on a hotkey. So if you guys really want to, you could put these guys on a hotkey, like, I don't know, let's say we put them on number 7. So before each inject style, you select number 7, and then you jump around it, and you don't need to box the queen each time. If you guys want to do that, absolutely go for it. Just one of those extra options that you have as a player, okay? All right, let's get our upgrades. We've got Baneling speed, and we've already got 1-1. Let's see if we can make 2-2. And then time for another macro cycle. Inject, inject, inject. And we never finished off those drones, guys. So let's build about 5 or 6 drones for here. Right-click. And in the main, about 5 drones. Click. And what else are we missing? Well, we never got up to taking the 4th and 5th base because we got attacked, right, guys? So let's fix up our macro. Let's box the drones in the main. Let's take a 4th. Let's take a 5th base. And let's keep on producing Zerglings and Overlords now, okay? Now, we've still got some vision out there with an Overlord here, but it's not that much. So if you guys are ever a bit blind in the mid-game, you are allowed to do this. Same with the deselecting. You can put Overlords on the map, or you can do it with Zerglings. Up to you guys, whichever one you prefer. Usually Zerglings is cheaper, but the Overlords can be nice in, say, ZVZ if it's like a Roach War and there's nothing that shoots up. All right, inject time, guys. Lizzie, Cersei, and Latifah keeping that economic machine rolling, building Zerglings, and then holding that down. So remember, you don't want to be stopping to think, am I building Zerglings or am I building drones between each production wave? It wants to be something where you're on a track. You're either on one track or you're on the other track. Wow, that's a lot of guys coming, guys. Let's make more Banelings. You might think, well, Banelings aren't very good versus Roaches, and they aren't, but if they're clumped up enough, they will be. So once again, we're going to start doing that micro where we want to move past and then try to A-move, okay? So our Banelings are done. Let's go. So we want to go for the big surround if possible. So let's just click way past and A-move. Now, our Banelings didn't really get the best hits there, but at least our Zerglings got a really nice surround. And you're going to see how much better they are at surrounding. Now, big issue, guys. This game would have been so much easier if I just did what I'm going to do in Gold League, which is when that first Roach attack comes, my Lings would have backstabbed, counterattacked, avoided fighting the Roaches, and I would have either won a base trade or his whole army would be running home. He'd take massive economic damage and I would be way ahead. But for now, in Bronze and Silver, we're going to stick to fighting front on, even though it is objectively not what you want to do with Ling Bane. Ling Bane's all about mobility and damage output, but it's very fragile. So I am purposely showing you guys how not to engage. Why? Because we want to keep things simple and focus on macro. Spend our money, get that down as a foundation, and then we move on to the backstabs later. Inject, inject, inject. But hold on a second, guys. If the game gets messy, you've got a lot of energy. So rather than doing it that way, if you've got a moment to breathe in the game, and we just want to fight, so we definitely do, instead of injecting just once, hold down shift and go inject, 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 inject. And just spam clicks. Inject, just spam 5, 6, 7 clicks. And what's going to happen is those injects will now sequentially pop on that hatchery. One will finish, the next will start. One will finish, the next will start. So we've basically just injected our hatcheries for the next 3 minutes, which means arguably we can just ignore injecting if we want to and just focus on unit production and army, which is absolutely massive. So let's hold that Zergling key down. You can see we've got so many Zerglings making. We're going to make more Banelings as well. If the game drags on, you really do need more gases. Notice we don't have much gas, so you can definitely take more gases. We're not going to bother with it this game. And let's just move these Overlords in for a bit of scouting, because we don't know if there's a third base yet. And look, there we go. Looks like a third base just finished. So let's go for a big attack, guys. Build a few more overlords. Inject, inject, inject. Always good to have that muscle memory, even if technically we don't really need to inject right now. All about building that muscle memory. Now, while we move across the map, let's grab half of this mineral line and move that over to the 4th. And our natural, about 11.5 minutes, half of that runs out. So we grab half of that mineral line and move it over to the 4th. So normally about 8 minutes 30 to 9 minutes, your main runs out, 11.5 your natural. We're going to talk more about that and making it a set habit later on. Probably around gold or maybe Plat League. All right, guys, let's go for a big attack. So we've grouped up, we're all together. Let's move in and go for a big attack there. And once you've got the surround, we can A-move into the base. Now, if you really want to be super sick here, once you win the fight, you can grab units and just put them on like this. To make sure you're messing up like all the different bases and not just all clumped up in one place. Once you break the core of units, getting Lings into all the bases is absolutely massive. And once you've done that, you can see that they're all kind of just out there killing things really quickly rather than all being stuck behind each other. Inject, inject, inject. Only when there's nothing to micro anymore and our units are all kind of in there genuinely doing a good job, then we focus on injecting, producing. And here's a cute one. We can shift a move if we want to. Probably too advanced a mechanic for us to really be talking about just yet. I always jump ahead and kind of tease you guys with hot little tips. Let's talk about backspace inject method, guys. Sometimes people have put it on spacebar. You guys know that I'm using spacebar as a dumping key potentially. So I can steal units off my control group and run them off to the side. Good push, mate. Very well played. So I wanted to talk about, well, what if you don't have camera locations, guys? So first thing with these different injecting techniques is number one, remember what I said? Having your 3 injecting queens on a control group is nice. So whenever you're going to go to inject, select that, jump to the main, jump to the natural, jump to the 3rd. You can see that's way quicker, right? If you guys prefer that and you can spare a queen hotkey, don't put it on a super priority queen hotkey. Remember, that's very different to, say, your creep defense key, which is going to be down on like number 4 or 5, something much better, much easier to use. This is a much lower priority key because you don't really need to micro these. It's just you hit it once every 30 seconds and then you do your injects and that works just fine. But what about the backspace method? Now there is a backspace method, guys. The default key for base camera is, let's go over to standard hotkeys. It's going to be backspace. Now what that does is it jumps between your hatcheries. The problem is, even though it does it in a set order, it will go to macro hatcheries and other hatcheries as well. So as you take more bases, it gets very chaotic. But there are inject methods where you can basically inject and that's bloody. You can basically just hold your mouse in the center of the screen. Same thing. Select your queens, press inject. And then you can basically V and do like that. And a lot of people like that method. If you guys want to do it and don't want to learn camera locations, you can get to a very high level doing this. Go out there, do some Googling on the best method. I don't use it at all. I don't particularly like it because I think there's extra time bouncing these other hatcheries. And I think it's better to inject 3 hatcheries really well and it to be an almost subconscious act than it is to focus on using a different technique. But if you're like, nah, camera locations aren't for me, don't like it, absolutely, there are other methods where you can just kind of spam it out a little bit. I didn't do a very good example of showing it here because I literally have never used it. But if you want to, just a quick Google search and you guys can find how to do it. There's a few different techniques and there's plenty of threads all over the forums. If you just Google how to do base camera injecting, you'll find a lot of them. Yeah, it can send queens all over the place a little bit. It has some issues. There's ways around it, but yes, it does run into issues, but it's very easy to execute. Okay, so people keep asking this. So why are we playing Ling Bane? And I've written this down up here, guys. Ling Bane build. Pig, why are we playing Ling Bane instead of the roach play you taught in your first Bronze GM? And it's simply to show a different style that comes with its own joys and challenges. The key differences compared to roach play are it'll be much more mobile. Your army is more fragile, but it has more damage output. So upside, downside, upside. Roaches are still a bit easier to get started with, but I believe Lings are more fun once you get the hang of them. I think a lot of roach players get stuck transitioning off that style and struggle to evolve as a player because they get stuck in a slower mode of gameplay. And whilst I still highly recommend my original Bronze to GM, I think this is an equally valid way of playing. And at the end of the day, StarCraft's about playing what you find fun. If you love Roach play and it vibes with you, do my original Bronze to GM. If you love Ling Bane and it vibes with you, do this Bronze to GM. That's really all I can say. I think either one is totally fine, and StarCraft's ultimately about doing things that you enjoy and have fun with. So never feel like you are pigeonholed into, I have to play this style because a pro gamer said it's the only way to play. It's not the case at all. You can always find a way to make your style work in StarCraft. It's just about being creative and learning how to make it work in whatever situations you find yourself in. All right, guys, we're against Mediterranean, who just finished their placement matches and is 1900 MMR on the EU server. Says they're brand new and have no idea what the hell's going on, which is pretty much a pretty standard bronze silver experience. So we'll see how we go. Now, in these next games, guys, I want to point out, first of all, that last game, a lot of you guys might have either died or had a bit of a harder time with that first push that came in that game, right? But remember, my Overlord got hit and I saw the roaches building up, and that's probably the main mistake my opponent made. If they didn't show the roaches massing up outside their base, I probably would have built one more big round of drones before going into Zerglings. And I don't think I would have died, but it would have been a much scrappier fight where I would have needed to like pull back behind the hatchery and do all this sort of stuff. So I think it's really fascinating how like these really small changes can add up quite a lot. All right, guys, Nigel's going to go sit outside the base. We're up against Mediterranean, a Terran player. And let's send that drone across the map, queue it through the main, and then back to mine. And then let's grab another drone and go build that hatchery. Okay. Now, what's even better, guys, is if we just rally our 14th drone across the map even earlier, just to get it out of the way. At the moment, I've been sending that drone a little bit late. So if you guys are finding that difficult, what can make that easier is if you just grab the 14th drone. So when you build the Overlord, you build one more drone. If you immediately click that across the map to do the scouting, it'll make your life a lot easier. So we're going to build the gas and then also the spawning pool here, guys. All right, check it out, guys. All right, let's add to hotkey, double tap, do the camera location. And we're going to build 3 more drones and click on the gas. That's 2, so we need 1 more. So we're just going to hold down, build drone, build lava. Select lava, build drone, sorry. And there we go. Now, that means our main's saturated, so we can rally to the expansion. And let's go set up our other camera locations. Control F3 on the 3rd, Control F4 on the 4th, Control F5, and Control F6. My man. If you guys could give some help, there's a lot of new players in chat, and obviously I can't help everyone there, but there's a lot of people I'd love if we could all help out, guys. So please help out if you guys are watching live in the chat, and try to take some of these newer players under your wing. There's a lot of players who are just figuring out the game. They're brand new, and having someone hop in and play some customs or get on Discord with them, you know, have a DM with them, can really help change someone's experience when they first start playing. And if you guys are brand new and you just feel lost, I really advise you to, you know, come into my Discord server and just be like, I'm brand new and I'm totally lost. Can anyone please show me the ropes? It will make a massive difference if you can get someone to do that. So anyway, let's talk back about what we're doing right now. I'm going to try and post-game analyze these games a little bit, and also we're going to try and scout a little bit more. We're getting towards the higher end of Silver League now, so we need to start scouting. Okay, first inject. All right, Lizzie injects the main, Cersei injects the natural, and then what do we do after that? Always the same, guys. 3rd hatchery, double tap, remake the camera location, set the rally points, and then what do? We build Letitia. Did I say Letitia? It's Latifa, you dumbass. How dare you? Shame you! Shame on you! Build an Overlord, put that up on the top, and build some more droney drones. Alright guys, so at 4 minutes, you want to send Nigel through the base to scout. Right now, we're doing a very lazy Overlord outside the base. But as we get higher level, we're going to move him there. And instead, we'll leave a Zergling outside the base, which we just did the little deselecting trick for. But if you're not doing that till higher level, that's fine. Inject, hold down the drone key. And we need a few more Overlords here, right? We still need one down here. So we're going to select, build Overlord. Another one down here. And one more down here in the very bottom side. I think I just heard Latifa popping out, guys. There we go. Alright, Latifa's going to spread creep and go to the 3rd. And guess what, guys? Our natural base is looking pretty full of workers, so what can we do? We can go 2nd gas and Beaming Nest. And we've just done a few other tasks, which means macro cycle! Inject! Inject! Inject. Oh, she's almost got energy. I'll wait for her. Inject. Hold down that drone key and then build an overlord. Now, that's so many drones. So if we take these 3, put them on gas, we're going to be oversaturated here, and we're starting to do something new, guys. We could have done this from the start, but I figured it was too hard to even monitor where we were in the build. Remember, we're now natural saturated. Not only do we want to rally to the 3rd base, but we also want to build a round of safety Zerglings on our next inject cycle. So inject, inject, inject. And we're just going to build Zerglings, and that's going to make us feel a lot safer if we always do that every game, okay? We're also a bit over saturation, so we can grab 3 or 4 of those workers, send them over there. And it's past 4 minutes, so let's send Nigel through the enemy base to try and see what the hell is going on. We've just done a few non-injecting tasks, so it's probably time to inject again. And indeed it is. Inject, inject, inject. And back to droning. But you can see we did it a bit early, so the lava hadn't even popped there. It's better to just wait and do the whole thing all at once. Build the drones, build the overlords. We can now go double evo chamber and a lair. Build a few drones to replace those. And actually, you need a lot of drones in your main to replace them, right, guys? Why is that? Because you guys know what happens next. We need to go double macro hatchery. And look, this is the first time we're getting so much better at the build. It's the first time I actually didn't have money to do both hatcheries at once, which is great. It means I'm spending my money much better. Inject, inject, inject. We only need 2 more drones there, which means we're swapping into Zergling production. Zerglings and overlords. That production machine is huge. We can get 1-1 started now. Once again, we don't have money. See how low the minerals is this game, guys? So this is a completely different experience. As you get better with the build, you're going to find these hatcheries go down faster. So after this game, we're going to start looking at what my opponent can do better. We're going to start scouting every game. We're also going to start, putting more units on the map, building around a safety links. But also, we're going to review the game at the end, and I'm going to show you guys some benchmarks. So Twitch chat watching live, you have a job. Shout benchmarks at me in chat at the end of this game, okay? Because I haven't given you guys any way to track your progress in your replays. We're going to give you guys a few really simple benchmarks to check to see how well you're doing so that you can track your progress. All right, guys, we've got 1-1 on the way. Remember, we should probably go 1-1 and Baneling speed at the same time just to make sure we don't forget it. You see, I'm doing a pro gamer thing where I'm talking to you guys and I just kind of start the upgrades without even thinking about it. You're not going to be able to do that. So it's better to do things together. If you go 1-1 and Baneling speed at the same time, that's great. And you know what? Maybe you want to build the Evo chambers on the natural instead of in the main. Maybe that makes it easier so they're all next to each other. Evos and Baneling nest all together. Arguably, they're safer up here in the main, kind of on the back of your main base, but either way. Inject, inject, inject. Keep building these Zerglings, guys, and more overlords. Oh, that's 6 more overlords. I'm already at 182 supply. That's more overlords that we're going to need for this entire game. At this point, though, let's send Gary in. Gary the Zergling. And, ooh, Thors and Hellbats. Okay. It's a mech force. So, guys, how do we respond to mech? We're in bronze and silver. We don't. We just make more stuff. To be fair, if you really want to, you could take a few more gases just so we can make more Banelings, but we're not going to bother. Inject, inject, inject. Make more Zerglings. And you know what? We never made our 4th and 5th base, guys, so let's take those 2 bases. And since we did it a bit late and we're still floating money, let's take a 6th and a 7th base as well. And we can just take a little minute here. Ooh, we could get 2-2 upgrades. Yeah, why not? Add to hotkey. Shift 1, shift 1. That one's going to take forever, but this one as well, shift 1. All right, guys, inject, 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 and big round of Zerglings. All right, let's turn all of them into Banelings, spend all of our gas on Banelings. And what we're going to do now is we're going to send a few Zerglings out, and we're going to go to a staging point, maybe halfway across the map, 2/3. We'll group up over here, wait for the Banelings, and then we'll go for one big attack, okay? In the meantime, we can transfer out of our main. If you see that big red number there, 17 out of 10, you can see the mineral patches. Half of them run out very quickly. And we can just send those over to a 4th base. Inject, inject, inject. Even when you're in attacking mode, this is why we go to the staging point. Notice we're doing a full round of injects and lings before going in for the fight, guys. And we're going to make some more Banelings here. So we go tab and make Banelings there. And we're going to group up out front. Oh, there's a big army. And let's go for it. All right. Now remember, we can move past. But we've got the surround, so we do the A move. And, oh yeah. Oh, this is the closest to a true bronze game that we've had so far, guys. Oh, this is adorable. All right, Mediterranean did say they were brand new and just finished their placements, and this is the first game that actually resembles bronze play that we've got. Oh wow, there's 2 Thors off in the corner of the main as well. Cool, okay. And remember guys, we always attack with 1-1 Baneling speed and having a big massive Ling Bane. That's every game, we always do the same attack. 1-1, Bane speed, big massive Ling Bane. If you have those upgrades but you only have 10 Zerglings, obviously wait till you've produced a few rounds so you've got a big blob of Ling Bane. But, I mean, the game must be incredibly weird if that's the case. Well played. Alright, well played there to Mediterranean. Let's rewind a little bit. Now let's talk about benchmarks. So you can go and check specific things like how quickly did I saturate my natural base? That's something you could check. You can get really detailed and go, okay, how quick did I hit 16 minerals? It was about 340, 345. Okay, cool. Let's see if, you know, that's pretty high tier stuff is like checking your money. Something you can do is go to the corner of the map and watch your supply and your money. You can be like, am I getting supply capped or is my money floating a lot? Something else you can do on 4x speed is you can watch your unit tab, guys. Whoops, sorry. Don't know what I just pressed there. If there's a lot of idle lava sitting in your unit tab, then that means that you're not spending your money when your macro cycle comes in. See how that explodes up? Notice how there's a rhythm, right? Naturally, they produce lava, but then all the lava injects pop and it gets spent. That tells us we're macroing well. If you look at this lava tab in a replay, 4x speed, and you see that's always at 10, 15 for extended periods. You see there, it went up to 11 for a few seconds and then we spent it all. Goes up to 11, 12, 13 lava, and then we spend it all. If it's sitting up there for a long period, 16 lava, and then we spent it all. You can see there's a rhythm to how I'm playing here, right? You will not have this. When you look at your replays, you're not going to see this. You're going to see 15 lava for 2 minutes straight and you're not spending it because you're getting distracted trying to remember the build order. And that's why it's so important to focus on this macro cycle as a fundamental basis for all Zerg play. It'll make you such a better StarCraft player. I think one of the best things you can do is benchmark when do you get to your 3 base workers, guys? When do you get to the point where you stop worker production and go into nothing but Ling Bane production? And for us, I think this is about 5 minutes. You can see about 5 minutes, 30. We've got 14 workers there with 5 more about to pop. That's full of workers and that's full of workers. So about 5 minutes 30. So we can benchmark that, and it's really good to keep a document so you can write all this down, right? So we can be like, benchmarks. So benchmark examples. So things you can check in on game to game. And you should make a habit of always clicking rewind and checking these things. So step 1 is, when do we hit 54 drone 3 base saturation, right? And we can say, okay, 5 minutes 30, you know, game on Gressvin ZVT, 5 minutes 30, something like that, right? And you can just track if you improve or not, right? Okay, what about when, you know, 1-1 Bane speed, Ling Bane timing. So when did we attack with 1-1 and Bane speed? Okay, guys? All right, so if we're looking in game, I think we hit about, what, 8 minutes, something like that? 9 minutes? I don't know. Let us take a look. And you don't want to just look at the time you attack. You want to check you had all the upgrades that you're supposed to have, and you want to check the number of units you have. Because if you hit a minute faster one game, but you have only 10% of the army size, obviously that doesn't mean you've improved, right? A lot of people are like, I hit 20 seconds faster, why didn't I win? And it's like, well, you were missing all of your upgrades, you forgot them all. So we're hitting at 9 minutes, guys, and we can just look at the units tab. Obviously, you could count the units that are actually at the front, but we'll just use the units tab to make it easy. We're going to say, okay, I have 163 Zerglings, and what's 27 plus 9? 36 Banelings. Okay, cool. 9 minutes. $36 Banes, 100 and, what was it, 160 something? 163 Zerglings. Cool. And then you can just kind of compare game to game. And this allows you to have the most important thing in StarCraft, which is actually seeing how much better you're getting game to game based on how well you're doing. Not victory or lose, because if you get hit by a battle cruiser and it messes up your whole build, obviously you're going to be later. but you can compare to a different game where you got hit by a battle cruiser. It'll make you such a better player. It's really about giving yourself something to say, oh, I'm getting better. Look how quick I'm improving. I'm hitting with more supply earlier in the game. I'm hitting my 3-base saturation earlier and earlier. And you can see progress game to game in these scenarios. And that's really fantastic. So that's one area which is just improving your build, improving your execution with no distractions. You can also, of course, improve how you deal with pressure and all sorts of things that throw you off. And I once again want to reiterate for anyone who's volunteering to play live, don't be afraid to pylon block me, to cannon rush me, to cheese me, to take corner bases. You guys can do anything you want. And some people sometimes are like, oh, I don't want to obstruct the learning. And it's like, StarCraft is a chaotic place where people do all sorts of random shit. So get in there. The more random stuff, the more teaching opportunities it is. Just play however you feel like playing. I'm not saying you need to try to do something crazy even though you don't know how to. But just something you can definitely try out. Yeah, so our APM, you'll notice, has gone up now. It was about 80 or 90 earlier on. It's now about 130. Now, a lot of people are going to say bronze and silver players don't play at 130 APM. There's always people who complain about this stuff. And keep in mind, guys, that's fine. If that's because they're not using any of these hotkey shortcuts I'm using. They haven't changed the repeat rate to hold the Zergling key down and build a billion Zerglings at once. I am unashamedly using these mechanics, and I've shown you how to set up the vast majority of them. So if you guys want to set them up as well, absolutely, you're able to do it. Obviously, I've spent so many years honing these skills. I will be faster than you will be. But the point is, I'm not going to show you a less efficient version of doing those things because I want to give you the best possible tools. I want to give you guys the best possible tools and give you the options. And you don't have to learn the best tools. There's other tools that'll get you by as well. But I just want to make sure you guys realize that simply by doing things like selecting all your hatcheries and holding down build Zerglings, you can produce Zerglings way quicker than most people out there who are sitting there tapping it one button at a time and stuff like that. It makes a big difference. All right, guys, we're going in against Javo, a silver Zerg player. Let's send Nigel straight across the map. And you know what? You'll go into scout and then sit outside. Let's add our hatchery to our control group. And let's build Nigel's little brother, who we can click outside our base. And then you know what, guys? I said I wanted to get that drone scout going earlier. Let's do it. Let's send this guy across the map and then back here to mine. So notice, just using the minimap, we've said go scout and then come home. Makes that nice and easy. Let's set up the second camera location and the third one. And we can build some more drones here. Remember, we want to go up to 17 supply on the drones. Third base there. Got the fourth base. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth base down the bottom. We can grab a drone and go and take that expansion. Okay, look at that, guys. Look at these camera locations. Don't they make it so smooth? Oh, I love them. I love them. I spent my first 5 years in StarCraft 2 not using camera locations and competed at a pro level without them. So don't get me wrong, you can do it without it, but they do just feel so nice. All right, guys, we're up to 18 supplies, so let's build the gas and then the spawning pool. So we're just waiting for 200 minerals here. You can see I'm just like waiting. So when we get close, we could just tap that key, put that spawning pool down. What the hell just happened? That didn't work for some reason. There we go. Now, we're going to start looking at the drone, guys. And what are we checking for? Against a Zerg, is it a 12 pool? It's not. We see an expansion. That's all we need to see. The expansion tells us it's not a 12 pool rush. That's all we care about. Same thing, if we're playing Terran or Protoss, the only thing we care about is if there's proxy barracks or proxy gateways. Anything else is just white noise. Now we're going to build that 19 Overlord and right-click that in the middle of the map. Zombie Grub, thank you very much for the raid. Hope you're all having a great day. And let's make sure our other camera locations are good, guys. We've got the fourth one, control F4. Fifth one, control F5. Rally point, control F6. Just going to keep building drones here while we're waiting for that spawning pool to finish. And remember, as soon as the pool's done, 2 queens and 4 Zerglings, right? Now those 4 Zerglings are just for safety. We've just been chilling with those at home, not really doing anything. We do control 2, chuck those on the army group, make sure they're all good. After you build those Zerglings, next up is Zergling speed. Now, as we get higher level, we will start pulling off gas with a lot of our build orders, but for now, we're not going to. We're just going to keep building drones, and we're going to grab this guy, send it over to the third base. Now, this Overlord's sitting in your natural. You really want to make sure you don't do that. Notice my Overlord's further out, because I could kill that with a queen very easily. So that's a big mistake that a lot of players make in the lower levels. Inject the main with, of course, Lizzie. Cersei's going to inject the natural. We'll give a few warning shots to scare Javo's Overlord off. I won't kill it though. And let's build the hatchery, add the hotkey, center it, make the camera location, and then make Latifah and our third overlord. Don't kill the overlord, just push it away, that's fine. All right, behind that, we made the overlord, build a few more drones. And then of course, we just want more overlords out front these bases. And guess what? Lizzie inject, Cersei inject, Latifah's still building. Gonna build a whole lot of drones. Let's go. And we can build a few more overlords just to look on the edges. You might think, well, there isn't really any early air harass in Zerg vs. Zerg, but you've got to remember that they could Nidus you or something like that. Just having overlords on the edge, just doing this as a general habit, it's not a bad idea. It's also going to see if any scouts come in. Latifah's going to spread creep and move to the third base, so we just A-move her down there. And I hear injects popping. Lizzie inject, Cersei inject. Latifah's not ready with that third hatch. We're going to build a lot of drones. And, it's alright, we'll let it live. I'm trying to let this live. I'm trying to give you some peace, Javo, but building more overlords there as well. Okay, guys, so the natural saturated, so you guys know what we do. And you know what? I'm going to build the Baneling Nest in the main this time, so we can do the Baneling Nest and Evos next to each other, because I think that's just going to make things a bit easier. We were talking about that in that last game. Alright, let's transfer drones, rally to the third, but remember, 1 round of safety Zerglings after the Baneling Nest and the second gas. Inject, inject, inject. Build Zerglings, add them to our control group, and that's going to make us feel way safer. Right? Now, while we're waiting for that next inject cycle, let's go double Evo chamber and lair. And this way we can go 1-1 Bane speed all at the same time. About a minute from now, okay? We can also build a few drones, just rally to the main. We're just waiting for the injects to pop, and then we're going to do that next cycle. You can see there's a real rhythm we're sinking into. Now, I'm giving you guys a lot of examples of this, but you're actually going to need way more than me. For me, obviously, you're not going to be this quick, but I want you guys to think of this like tying your shoelaces over and over again until it becomes something you don't have to think about. We build the drones, we're building the overlords, building the overlords, building the overlords, just rallying those all to the back. It's just over and over and over again. And StarCraft is all about this. Even when it comes to defending a battle cruiser or dealing with a big scary army, it's all about repeating a situation and kind of memorizing a response. StarCraft is not a game where we want to ever be actively thinking about all the little details. We want as much to be on a subconscious level so we can focus on a few important things that we really need to adapt to. Lizzie, Cersei, and Latifah go for the triple inject. We're building mass Ling now because we are up at that drone count. Saturated, saturated, saturated. And guess what, guys? 1-1, Baneling speed. And it's macro hatch time. We get the double macro hatchery down. Looks like we lost something there. Let's send some scouts out, guys. We're trying to play with a bit more vision. Now as we're moving up, we're pretty much ready for Gold League, so we'll use that deselecting trick. Let's show you guys one more time. Show you guys one more time. Grab the army, right click, shift left click. Right click, shift left click. Right click, shift left click, come home, remake the control group. And you can see that gives us that lovely scouting. Inject, 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 build Zerglings. And you see here, we've got these hatcheries, but we haven't control grouped them. So control click, shift 1. And let's build a 4th base and a 5th base as well. There's some Zerglings there, so I'll kill those. Just A-move my Zerglings, don't stare at it. You know that my massive Zerglings is going to kill their 2 Zerglings. And let's build extra overlords. You can see I didn't get any overlords on that last cycle, so we're building as many overlords as we can in between the cycle. But remember, guys, if you prefer doing it the other way, and most players I coach do it this way, they prefer inject, 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 and they'll build, okay, build 3 or 4 overlords, click into the back, and then they'll build Zerglings. If you guys prefer that way, go for it. Absolutely fine. That's what most players say they much prefer. Now let's shift 1. Shift 1. I love this build. I know the amount of production looks really silly, but it really is such a good build. Keep building Zerglings here in between cycles whenever we can. And there's roaches, so we're up against roaches again. Everyone we're playing goes roaches. What normies? Inject, inject, inject. Build Zerglings. And let's start morphing those Banelings, because guys, we can see our timing is here. We've been producing nothing but Lings for a while. We're making as many into Banes as we can, and our Baneling speed's done, and our 1-1 is almost done. So what are we going to do? Let's move across to the staging point where we're going to group up before going in for the push. And while we move across, let's inject, inject, inject. Build one more big round of Zerglings. Just wait for all these Banelings to catch up, guys. Make sure everything's nice and clumped up. All right, let's go. Big army coming now. We haven't hidden this at all. We're not being coy. And let's go for a big old A move, shall we? Now, in this case where they're pre-spread, you can't really move everything past, right? You can just A move. So we're going to A move to the main. Try and get in. Remember, if you want, you can split some units into the bases. Because otherwise they all kind of get stuck behind each other. So you see, you just kind of like, you can kind of just move them around a little bit. But if your units are already fighting well, don't over micro. Don't. The number of people here who are like, I want to click on this thing. I click that, and it's like, what are you doing? If you want to do that, guys, you can, right? What do? You box a few units, and you grab them, and you say, oh, you guys kill that. But get out of this terrible habit 90% of gamers have, where they select their whole army and they click it on one thing. It's so bad. Just A move behind the enemy army, they'll do well. Inject, inject, inject. Build Zerglings? GG. Too many units. Indeed, the power of macro. And obviously, we've done this so many reps in a row now. We're hitting it faster and faster timings, more and more units. The attack's getting really powerful. Let's go benchmark it. Let's compare this to that last game. Now that we're looking at these benchmarks, let's take a little look. All right, so first of all, when did we hit saturation? It was 530 last game. Did we hit that same mark? And remember, this is with a round of safety workers. So if we were safety lings, so if we weren't building the safety lings, it would probably be a little later. But, ooh, yeah, looks like about 525. I mean, they're not all there yet, but they are all about to be. Let's say 530. They actually get to the base all at about 530. So we could say 530 again. Pretty much the same benchmark. That's some nice consistency. ZVZ, Babylon, 530. Cool. ZVZ Babylon. What time did we hit? I think this was about 8 minutes 20 this time. I think we shaved a lot of time off the actual attack, guys. Maybe not that early. Maybe 8 minutes. Maybe not that late, actually. Jeez, yeah, this was really fast this time. And you'll notice it was just because we got everything going way quicker. Has Pig lost any games yet? Was it just 1 or 2, guys? I feel like we lost 2. I think we lost the very first game and maybe one other game? Or maybe it wasn't the very first. It was the one after the very first. Yeah, this is pretty slick, guys. This is a very good timing. So let's take a look at how well we did here. Just as we're about to go in. And don't look at it when your army moves out. Look at it when you're actually fighting. So let's say what? About 808. We have 33 Banes and 99 Zerglings. And the 1/1 upgrades in the Bane speed all done, okay? 20 more Lings about to pop. But this is not as many units, but we're hitting a lot faster, right? So that's what's huge. Sorry, what was the time? I already forgot. 808. 808. 99 Lings. 20 about to pop. And 33 Banes. So you can see it's like, okay, it's a little bit of a smaller army, but we shaved a good 52 seconds off it, which is massive. So that to me seemed like a pretty scary timing. Whoops. And you can already see like, ooh, we're getting better. That's awesome. How good is that? How good is that? All right, so what could my opponent have done better here? So let's talk about it, guys. If my opponent, if you ever see someone massing Ling Bane and ZVZ, guys, you can make a reactive Bane nest, even if you're playing Roaches. And just, if he has like 6 or 7 Banes just kind of spread through his army, that'd be great. Even better if they're on a separate control group, and then he can move command them into my army, and then A-move them when they're in the middle of my Ling Bane. Just a bunch of, imagine if my opponent has 7 or 8 Banelings, right? So you guys have got to realize there is a very big reason this style is not popular in ZVZ. Mass Ling Bane like this is incredibly weak to your enemy having some Banelings and your units all get annihilated, right? Because Lings get 1-shot by Banes. Even with Carapace, they survive with 1 hit point. Banelings get 2-shot. It's really, really nasty, right? So actually, wait, do Banelings get... Oh yeah, Banelings do still get 2-shot. Actually, wait a second. 17. Wait, Banelings don't 2-shot other Banelings anymore? 17, 7... Guys. It's been like this for a while, right? Banelings don't two-shot. Oh, no, because Bane speed adds 5 hit points. They do still two-shot them until Bane speed adds 5 hit points to Banelings, and then they take 3 shots. Right, okay. My brain almost exploded for a moment. I was like, wait, what? How have I not noticed that? Yeah, that makes sense. So Banelings would be huge. Also, obviously, as it gets later, having a few lurkers annihilates Ling Bane. It's really, what you would want to do is wall off your base almost completely. If you want, you can put a spine crawler in the door and then unroot the spine when you want to get in and out. And you want to just keep all your roaches in a big ball and have a few banelings in front to blow up the enemy zerglings and banelings if possible. But yeah, that's the main thing my opponent could do there. Obviously, I think I just macroed better though. Because you might think, well, did you really? It's similar supply, but roach supply is not worth that much. Banelings are incredibly supply efficient, as are zerglings. So my army is actually way better quality than my opponent's here. Yeah, Ling Bane trades really good with roaches if you can get epic surrounds. Is there anything this Ling Bane build could do against a crisp speed roach attack? So basically, all right. So when I was practicing this build, you need to backstab across the map. Because I was playing a few people last week with like silver, but also gold and plat players, and people who were doing a pretty crisp roach speed attack, and I was still explaining the basics, so I was kind of slow on the build. You just need to like go around. Like you see the roaches move out, and you just go around and base trade them basically with all your lings, and it's very hard for the roaches to deal with that. Yeah. So like those lings, you do need to use like control group stealing for that. So all the lings you have on the map go for the backstab, and then everything else like pulls back into your main until you have enough lings to surround. All right, guys, we're up against a Protoss player here. Build a drone, send the Overlord in, and then outside the base, Nigel the pervert gonna be doing what he does best. Nigel's little brother is gonna be built next. It's gonna go over the natural and then out front the base. Let's build one more drone, and that's gonna be our scout. So remember, if we can get this order down at the start, where you do that really quickly, it feels much lazier, you know, it feels much better. We can go second base, third base. I've already got 3 camera locations up. All about practice to do this quicker and quicker. I can't tell if your hairline is receding or if your brain is getting bigger every day. How about a bit of both? Why not both? Corporlos, I can never remember the Spanish for that line. God damn it. You guys remind me, what's the little girl say? The why not both girl? ¿Por qué no los dos? ¿Por qué? Porky no los dos. But Porky most certainly losing his hair, you know what I'm saying? Hi-oh, Pig speaks pretty good non-English languages. In case you guys hadn't already caught on. pretty languagely talented. All right, guys, we're gonna go for the gas on the pool. We want to build 3 drones and click them onto the gas, remember? So that's 2 drones, we need 1 more. Porque is correct, apparently. All right, so guys, we see the buildings are at home. That's all I needed to check this game, nothing else. That's totally fine. If that's a forge and we're getting cannon rushed because I've been reading Twitch chat, that would be funny. So let's build an Overlord now, guys. Over here, click that out front, or actually out front, our third base. Click this one out front. And we're just waiting for that spawning pool to finish, building drones in the meantime. At 20 supply, you actually don't need to spend that lava because we can just turn that into Zerglings. All right, guys, so the spawning pool's done. Let's build 2 queens and 4 Zerglings. Remember, you do need to sometimes wait a second or 2 for that hatchery to finish. All right. After the Zerglings, you guys know what's next. It's Zergling speed. Notice the more we do it, the easier it is to remember the next step. And just keep building these drones, and then what do we do next? We grab a drone from our natural, and we send that to the third base. Now we can go and obsess and stare at their base, but no, guys, we already saw buildings are at home. That's all we need to look at. Do not look at their base. It's a big distraction. At 4 minutes, we'll send Nigel through for a scout. So he can go off to the side a little bit over there. Get ready for that. We'll send a Zergling there to sit outside the base. But for now, Queen Elizabeth's calling. She wants to inject. Cersei wants to inject. And that means after they inject, we build the third. We go shift 1, double tap 1, remake camera location, set the rally point. And then we go third Queen, and then Overlord, and then back to droning. Beautiful. Always that same order, guys. Always that same order. Tig, have you talked much about good positioning? I have not. Remember, so far, what we've talked about here in Bronze and Silver has been we leveled up to don't just A-move, move past their army to surround it, then A-move. That was a big step. Inject, hold that drone key down, and then we want a few more overlords along these edges, guys. Let's put one down here below the main base. And notice, just build the overlord, right-click on the minimap. Reselect the hatcheries, build the overlord, right-click on the minimap. Latifah's here, so she's going to spread creep and move to the third base. This is awesome. Our natural is full of workers, guys. You guys know what to do. We're going to take a second gas, and we'll get the Bailey Nest in the main as well. Remember, we want those Evos up here. All right, Lizzie inject, Cersei inject, Latifah not ready yet. Build a bunch more drones and a few more overlords. Oh, wait a second. Oh, okay, after that, we do need to build the safety Zerglings. We're not fully saturated on the natural just yet, but we will be in a moment. And in fact, oversaturated, so we can rally to the third. Grab a few of those guys, send them to the third base as well. And remember the next cycle, let's inject. No! No injecting out of order. We must build deep muscle memory. Deep muscle memory. Inject with Lizzie, inject with Cersei, inject with Latifah. Build that round of safety Zerglings, guys, that we do after saturating our natural. Build a few more overlords. We can click one down here. Looks like there's a hole in my vision. And remember, guys, for a Randy Protoss player, any hole's a goal. All right, guys, Nigel, we're going to click through the base. We've already seen a super quick third base, which means our opponent's being very greedy. Wow. Now, I could A-move this and win the game because I have high-level pattern recognition. You guys don't, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to chill. But we know he's being very greedy, so how do we respond? We don't. Keep doing your build. Your build's solid. Inject with Lizzie, inject with Cersei, inject with Latifah. Get that big fat round of drones coming out. A few more overlords. And that, if we hover over that count, I was like, that should be about enough drones to saturate the base. It is 54. That's the perfect count. So what do we want? Double Evo plus Lair. Remember, those two always go together. And what do we do next? You guys know what we do next. Double macro hatch. And check it out. We're doing it once again without having enough money to do it, which is fantastic. That tells us we're macroing well. All right, guys. Inject Lizzie, Cersei, Latifah. And we're going to build about 5 more drones. Click them in the main to replace those. I'm going to swap in a Zergling production because that's all we need from them. So we're going to add those Zerglings to our control group. Control click the egg, shift 2. I got to talk to you guys a little bit more about that. I've been doing it, but I haven't been emphasizing as much. I'm going to talk about that a lot more, okay? And then build overlords, click them to the back. Remember, it's only when we build army units, but it's very important. What about the backspace injecting method? Remember, guys, if you prefer to not box, you can absolutely, with any inject method, like I said earlier, put these queens on number 7. I'm just not used to doing it. But if you guys want to select those queens and then go F1, F2, F3, that's also fine. This is much better than the camera the spamming method. Let's go 1-1 and Bane speed. Building more Zerglings. So remember, control click the egg and then shift 2, guys. Now, why do we do that? Let me give you guys an example. Let's build 2 pairs of Zerglings. Imagine that's all we can prepare. If we don't actually control click the egg, if we just go shift 2, that seems fine until you build a few more drones and overlords. And now those drones and overlords, some of those are on our control group as well. And that means we're going to have drones and overlords in our army, which is really annoying. So this is why we want to make sure we always control click the eggs, so we're not accidentally adding lava to our army key that could turn into non-army units in the future. You can see here we've got 2 overlords on our army key now, which is annoying. Inject, inject, inject. Let's build more Zerglings. And guys, we haven't built those extra hatcheries yet. Oh, looks like I didn't actually set up my camera locations. 4th base, 5th base. Let's set up those camera locations now. And remember, when 1-1 finishes in Bane speed, we can get on that shiz. Man, some lag spikes going in right now. Sorry, guys. Hopefully that's not too crazy. It's freezing up for me. All right, 1-1 and Bane speed are almost done, guys. So let's do another macro cycle, and then let's get ready for a big old A move. Inject, inject, inject. Let's build some Zerglings. And let's make a lot of Banelings here with all that gas. Okay, that's a lot. Now let's put some Zergling scouts on the map. Notice I'm doing them all around my opponent's bases, guys. And we use that deselect for that. So what do? Remember, it's right click, shift deselect, and then we only control 2, remake the army group after we've split all those lings off. That gives us the advantage of having a spare Zergling here we can send in. And we go, ooh, Archons. That's not good for us, guys. Archons are really good. So what you should do is you should panic and you should change to a strategy you've never done before. Okay, control-click the eggs. Shift 2. Build a few more Overlords. Let's get ready for an attack. I was joking, in case anyone doesn't know, about changing your build order and panicking. Because I know that's what most people do. They see something that's strategically not great for them, and they shit the bed. No, no, no. Guys, 1-1's finished. Bane speed's finished. Let's go for it. Let's go for this big attack. We're all grouped up here. Where's that army? We saw it over here before. Where is it? Notice I'm trying to stay clumped up. Here we go. Let's move past, and a move. And we're going to build more Zerglings behind it. Add those to our army group. I could move these Banelings in the middle, but looks like our opponent has Colossus Archon. Guys, it counters our army composition. Oh no! Alright, let's pull back. We're going to need to inject, build Zerglings. And what can we do to give ourselves longevity in this game? We're going to grab half of the workers in the main, put them on the fourth, okay? Add to the control group, send to the camera location. Add to the control group, send to the camera location. But we also need gas, because it's very important. So build the gases, select the hatchery, build 3 drones. Select the hatchery, build 3 drones, click the gases, because we're going to need a lot of Banelings in order to kill that army, okay? We can also build a few more drones there. We can also go to the 4th base, take the gases, build 3 drones, click on the gas. The other one, build 3 drones, click on the gas. So, if the game goes longer and build a few more drones there. Oh, that's actually no. Do we really want to build more drones? No, we don't. We're just going to take extra gases so we can make more stuff. That's all, guys. We'll make 2-2 upgrades and we'll get injecting. Inject. I did injecting out of order. Bad pig, bad. Pro gamers do that all the time, but you should not do that until you are pro, basically. You shouldn't be doing it. You should try to stick to your macro cycle. Naughty pig. Now, Archon Colossus is a massive hard counter to this composition, guys, obviously. So, what we're going to do in Gold League is we're going to split Banelings off and roll in here, split Banelings off, roll in here, and we're going to do more like base trades and run buys. But we're not at that league yet, so all we did was we added 4 more gases, so we have 6 gases total. I'm going to keep inject, build Zerglings. That's it. That's all we're doing now. Okay? We're going to make a massive army of units. Now, I did build some more drones for the gases, so I'm up at 67 workers, right? So I built about 12 more workers on top of what we normally sit at. Inject. Oh, you know what, guys? We missed inject. So let's Q injects. Come on, Latifah, catch up. And just keep building Zerglings. And we're going to make another massive Banelings. And keep in mind, guys, real simple adjustment. Just split units off. How do we do that? Remember, we set up spacebar. Or you can just put them on a different army group. I can just be like, hey, you guys go there and steal onto number 7. You guys go there, steal onto number... We're not going to bother with that. We're going to bring everything together. We're going to go for one big giant army. And here we go, guys. So let's go for it. We're going to move on past. And let's aim it. All right, GG. So it looks like our opponent there hard countered our composition. Took a really greedy early 3rd base. We let them get that up. And they built the hard counter to our army. We can GG, right? Or... without splitting our army up, we can base trade. Inject. And if we already base traded, we might have been able to win this game. So without splitting our army up, I think even in Bronze, Silver, and Gold, we're definitely allowed to do this, right? I think we're definitely allowed to do this where you just base trade, right? Split the Lings into all the bases, guys. So what you do, notice you box Lings, click in the natural. Box Lings, click in the main. Box Lings, click in the 4th. And if we did this with all of our Lings from the start, and Banes, we probably could have won a base trade because these units are insanely good in a base trade, Ling Bane. What's spacebar set as? Well, I'm not actually using it because I'm using my standard keys, but we set up spacebar so that whenever you press it, it steals units off your army group. So I've got 22 Lings here. I can just press spacebar and I stole those Lings. It dumped them off. Except it's meant to dump them on 0. Yeah. All right, guys, GG, well played. And hats off to Pastel Black there. Very well played. So let's benchmark, guys. Did we hit at 530 saturation on the 3rd? It kind of hurt me attacking into that, but we had to do it, guys. We had to do it. So 530, 16 workers on the third. So we hit the exact same benchmark there, guys. And what about the attack benchmark? I think we're a bit closer to 9 minutes rather than 8 minutes. And looks like that definitely hurt us. We also left his economy alive when we could have killed that in this fight. And if I actually killed that economy there, there's like 36 workers there. Who knows? If we split just a few Lings and Banes off into that mineral line, that would be game changing, right? Instead, my opponent had thousands more minerals coming in off this base, which allowed them to remax. So you can see that Ling Bane is not a specialist in engaging in one fight. Once they have splash damage, it becomes more and more reliant on backstabs and base trading and going around and finding the good engagements wherever it can. And that's exactly what we should have done here. But hats off to Pastel Black. Now, Pastel also played a build which would die to literally anything. And like I said, I have high-level pattern recognition. I don't think you really need that high-level pattern recognition to go, me have big pack of Zerglings, opponent build Nexus at 4 minutes, I can A-move that. And don't even look at it, keep doing your build. Don't even look at the Zerglings. And if I do that here, this is also a very easy way to win this game. So there's a lot of options you have as a player, but I wanted to show you that when you're focusing on just these things and keeping a very simple focus, you'll lose games where small adjustments could have turned that into an easy victory. That's StarCraft. But it's not about winning every game. It's about improving your skill set. The player who goes, I should have just done an all-in, and freaks out and laments the fact that they were working on improving their build and their macro, that's the player who never gets out of whatever league they're stuck in. That's the player who's stuck there getting angry rather than going, hey, did I hit my third base benchmark? Yes. Did I hit a pretty good timing attack with my Zerglings? Yeah. All right, we're doing good. And they pat themselves on the back and say, I did this and this good. Technically, I could split some Lings off for run bys, or I could do this or that. But if I still feel like I've got my hands full just macroing and hitting these benchmarks, we've already got enough stuff on our plate, and that's totally fine. What about anti-air? Well, you just keep building Zergling Baneling. Like I said, I could easily win this game with Ling Bane by just using it better. So why overcomplicate things on the tech when you can just learn to split up and attack a few different places? Obviously, we're going to teach many different styles, and as we go up the ranks, we're going to teach all sorts of different builds. Ling Bane Muta, Ling Bane Hydra, teching straight to Ultras, Ling Bane Infesta, Ling Bane Infesta into Ultras, Ling Bane Infesta into Broodlords. There's like 1,000 ways you could choose to play. What do we do for anti-air? Well, you have Queens, and we wrote down, it's all in the document, !B2GM doc. You guys can just build a spore in each base, add a few Queens, get all your Queens on a creep/defense key, and use that. Once we get into spreading creep, which I've soft scheduled for what league? Plat League is where we're going to really start spreading creep. We'll always have 4th and 5th Queen to spread creep. I don't know what their names will be. Freddy and Mercury probably is what I'm thinking. Since we've already got, the 3 Injecting Queens. I think once we get 2 creep Queens, we'll go with Freddy and Mercury. And they'll be the beginnings of the defense anti-air key. If your opponent really commits, you can build Aspire and Corruptors, but
Thanks for the
that's only if they're super committed to air. Alright guys, we're playing Control-Alt-Died, a Terran player who's literally never played ladder and says they struggle with the hard AI still. So this should be a very chill match. And I think this is a good one. Rather than talking about the basics of what I'm doing, we're going to be repeating the same stuff. And don't worry, I'll commentate it more in the future. Let's talk a little bit about what this last game taught us. That last game was so perfect because we saw a situation that will happen sometimes, which is your opponent just happens to either scout your army and counter it, or more likely their build just happens to counter your build. Now, I think we know why my opponents did in that last one. It's because I'm taking volunteers. They know what my build is, and they're blind countering it and, putting their head together to create the worst possible scenario for me. And that's totally fine, because that shows that sometimes that's going to happen just through random chance. Someone will play a strategy that beats yours, and your strategy won't work that well. And the thing is, that isn't a reason to say your strategy's bad. No strategy works 100% of the time. There's advantages and disadvantages. It's actually good for you to lose those games and go, oh, okay, it's weak against this army. Colossus and Archon's pretty good versus Zergling Baneling. Who knew? Did you guys know that? I never knew that. I had no idea. Can you believe it? That's crazy, right? What if my opponent walls off on one base and then they have siege tanks on the, they have like 4 siege tanks on the high ground? Am I gonna run up that ramp with just Ling Bane? Maybe, I don't know. Is it gonna be good? Probably not. But I think what's really cool is it shows us that like, hey, if that happens and you lose 10% of your games to your opponent just hard countering your army, shrug your shoulders and move on to the next game. As long as you're executing your build in the way that you want to, that's fine. Just, it's totally fine for you to continue just doing the same build and trying to do it better. The thing about StarCraft is there's so many things you could do better. It's easy for people to get so angry and be like, oh, I shouldn't have run up that ramp, or oh, I should have just swapped into ultras, oh, instead of running in with that Ling Bane in that last game. And so many people get so angry and worked up, and they want to strive for that mythical 100% win rate, which does not exist. It doesn't exist. What's way more healthy for you is to just choose what your focus is, and it's whatever you're keen to focus on at the time, whatever excites you. What do you mean, Pig? Well, you could just focus on doing the build better, like in that last game. You could also just say, okay, you know what, next time if I scout Archon Colossus, and I did scout a lot of Archons, I knew that was a pretty scary position to be in, compositionally. I'll split my army up, I'll attack 2 or 3 places at once. That's it. Because I guarantee you guys, if I attacked the 3rd, the 4th at the same time, and then like maybe even send some Lings into the main base from the left side after killing the 4th, I would have killed the entire economy. I wouldn't have killed the army, but I would have killed the entire economy, and it would have been an absolute breeze from there because my Remax would have been able to kill the army, and my opponent wouldn't have been able to produce, and that's the difference. It's like just a small change of like, oh, if I just hit the economy there, we would have been in a pretty good spot. Hey, that's it. Bam. Completely different outcome with a small change. If you're too busy getting angry, oh, I need to change the whole build, you're getting too excited and worked up, you're often going to look for grand solutions to really basic problems. And often it's the smallest changes that reap massive rewards and benefits, okay? So that's something you guys should absolutely be focusing on in your play, is don't stress too much over sometimes things don't go your way. That's StarCraft, baby. That's sometimes your opponent has a really good army or you take a bad fight. As long as you can look at the replay and learn from it and kind of, you know, surmise something from it, you should be good. Now it's funny, before I was taking the gas on the natural, right? This time I took the gas here. Let's not do that. That's different. Why would we change that? I don't like that. Because you've got extra drones here anyway, right? So we put the drones there and we rally to the 3rd. Let's go back to commentating the build. We'll talk more about the bigger picture in a moment. All right, guys, let's go. Lizzie, Inject in the main, Cersei in the natural, and Letitia in the 3rd. Oh, we should be building those safety Zerglings. I built a few drones accidentally, my bad. So we'll build a few more Lings here, keep us safe. And we've got that Ring of Vision. Let's send Nigel in for a little bit of a perv. Nigel, for those who don't know, his whole job is he's got 4 eyes on either side of his head. He has evolved for maximum perving. And if you guys want, I've had a few requests. A lot of fans out there making fan art about him and all sorts of stuff. So we are going to be making t-shirts. It's just going to be him peeking through the cupboard door saying, coming to your bedroom soon. It's going to be a good one. Let us know if you guys are excited for that merch. And we'll get that one up on the merch store in the near future. So it should be fun. Yeah. Okay, guys, so we've got the 3rd base rallying drones there. What do we need? We need a few macro hatcheries. If you can grab the drones that have just popped out to build macro hatcheries, that's cool. But that's a very advanced thing. That's super advanced. You don't need to do that, guys. So we'll build a few macro hatcheries. All right, let's take a look at the overlords. What do we... Oh, God. Oh, yep. Okay. I was like, it says they're struggling with hard, but that base is an absolute travesty, guys. Oh, God. Nigel right now isn't even aroused. He's just grossed out. He's like, what am I looking at? That is an ugly base. Ooh. All right, Lizzie inject, Cersei inject, and Tifa inject. On to non-stop Ling production now, guys. Slings, build a few OVs. And guess what? 1-1, Baneling speed. Remember, you just do all your extra tasks in between your macro cycles. Control click the hatcheries, shift 1. 4th base. Actually, I know I had extra drones here, so let's take the drones from there. Build a 4th, build a 5th. And what's our drone count? Yeah, about the right count. Remember, about 54, 55 is where we want to be. Lizzie inject, Cersei inject, Latifa inject. Build Zerglings, build Overlords. That's funny, I've always called the scouting pole the pervert pole. Yeah, the pervert pillar. I actually named that. That's one of my proud dubbings. I'm very proud that that's spread through the StarCraft community. Every time I hear another commentator call it the pervert pillar, which is the pillar you can sit on without getting spotted unless they have a flying unit, it makes me so happy in my soul. I feel like I've just spread a little bit of filth into the wider StarCraft community. Much like a very angry, sad person who likes to spread hatred by arguing with people on the internet, I'm basically a filthy person who likes to just spread dirty jokes and dumb poo-poo, bum-bum, wee-wee, pervy-perv jokes. Alright guys, so we've got 7 hatcheries on our hotkey, and all we're doing is just injecting here. Let's put some Ling Scouts out, shall we? Right click, shift, left click. Right click on the map, shift, left click a Zergling. Right click on the map, shift, left click on a Zergling. Let go of shift, come home, and remake the army group. And you can see those Zergling Scouts going all over the map, very nice. Inject with Lizzie, inject with Cersei, inject with Latifah. Just keep massing these Zerglings. Yeah, if you can find a way to overcome the adrenaline that so many people just get flooded with when they're playing and just keep macro cycling, you will get to Platinum League so quickly, guys. It's actually crazy how quick you can skip Gold League and get to Platinum League if you just get this macro cycle down that I'm iterating here. Like, everything I'm showing you guys easily can get Platinum League. Obviously, adding a bit more scouting and stuff will be great, but for now we're looking good. Now, my opponent is turtling with tanks. Nigel sees it all, and he's getting a little bit randy seeing that. Luckily, there's no wall off, and obviously we are going to win the game really, really easily because my opponent doesn't really know how to play. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit. You know what? Let's give them some fun. Let's give them some campaign mission style engagements, guys. So what's so good about this style? I know a lot of people are going to be critical, especially after games like that last one with the Archons and the Colossus. I think so many people are going to be like, see, Ling Bane's not good. It doesn't scale well. You know, they're going to say stuff like this. And I really want to remind people, this is building so many skills, which I feel like a lot of my Roach players never really develop. And that is building lots of hatcheries. We're building money. Guess what?
Depleted.
Build a hatchery. Inject, inject, inject. Hold that Zergling key down. My god, that production is insane. And it's so much bigger with this style, guys. Let's make 2-2 upgrades as well. It's building these hatcheries, control clicking, shift 1. Because we're doing that with these 2 macro suits from the start. I know players in Diamond who have never built this skill.
Thank you for doing so much for the SC community.
Thank you very much, Vaclav. I know people who've never developed this skill. They've never developed this skill of just build a bunch of buildings at once by boxing their drones. And really focusing on that will make you such a better player. Right from the start, guys. Right from the start. Now, anyway, we better go because he is actually getting a lot of tanks. It's kind of worrisome, right? Make a few more Banes. Now, remember, guys, if we A-move from here, our army is going to be really spread out. Remember, our Banelings will be too far behind. So you want to get as close as possible because the Banes are so much slower. And if you want to be really pro, you can even spread to the right. But we're not going to do that just yet. That'll be more of a Gold League thing. And now we want to A-move. Let's go. We can move in, and then A-move. Now, obviously, the start of the fight looks terrible, but Ling Bane has such explosive power. We select our hatcheries, we build more Zerglings. Even while looking at the fight, we do that. You can see the crazy power. And remember, split some things into the third. Just get in this habit. Move them in. Get them in, get them in, get them in. Thanks for waiting a bit longer. GG, well played, mate. Alright guys, let's give some advice to Control-Alt-Delete there. So, Control-Alt-Delete, build order-wise, definitely Bronze to GM, get those basics going. So one of the big things with Terran is the moment your barracks finishes, you want to build an orbital command center immediately because dropping mules is a huge part of your economy as Terran. Overall, the start bit actually looked pretty good. Problem is the command center is a bit earlier than it should be because you should have enough money to make orbital and marine and then the command center, but the barracks was so late, which was an issue. After your second depot, you actually don't need to build any more depots until you're at 35 supply. Now notice, Control-Alt-Delete is going to start building depots immediately, just to make sure. if you just hold off, get your orbital command centers, get some more production facilities, and only start building depots at 35 supply, be about 3 minutes, 30, something like that. That'll be better. And what you can do is you can go down here with those depots and get a nice wall off that you can raise and lower. Getting the wall off there would have just made that defense even better, and it would have been fantastic. So very, very nice. Did a pretty good job for a brand new player though, but definitely just some habits you can still build. I love that you're queuing things, but I wouldn't queue up more than 1 extra depot at a time. Just go try to make a habit of it. For Terran, the macro cycle is every 25 seconds you queue 2 SCVs per command center and queue up another depot. And you can have that. This is Gary, but you can have Bruce building depots with him in a little bit. We can watch this from his camera for a little bit while we answer a few questions. Pig, I've been reading about convergence points for Terran, aka most efficient number of production building based on the number of bases. Like many build orders, 2 base converge to 311. Is there something like that for Zerg? Yeah, I mean, kind of. You know, Zerg doesn't really have the same production. It all builds off hatcheries. But there's things like saturate all 3 mineral lines as quickly as possible off 1 gas, or off 2 gases, or off 3 gases, and then take all the tech and the gases and do all those things at once. So Zerg, there's often a priority of saturate the mineral lines ASAP, then do this. Saturate the 3rd mineral line and then do the next step. So it's just kind of, it's about filling your bases up with workers as quickly as possible. But otherwise, it's quite different in the flow of it. Terran builds are very, and they repeat the exact same patterns over and over again across many different builds. Terran is a plug-and-play race. You get different pieces that are very modular, that you can take a piece from one build to another build and just stack them on top of each other and stuff like that. Zerg's a little bit more about getting this rhythm down with your lava spending. So it's more about the macro cycle and just the expansion rate, and then having good scouting and building army at the correct time to keep yourself safe. Hey, I main Protoss. I have particular trouble with early Zerg pressure. I never seem to be able to shut that front door in the natural. Any advice? Yeah, work on your wall-offs. Go on Reddit, All Things Protoss. They usually have a wall-off guide of images there, and go practice it in empty custom games on each map until you know exactly where to build it. Like, I don't know it for the new maps. They're pretty straightforward, but it used to be like on Inside Out, I'd have to hover my pylon over and go 1, 2, 3 space gap, and then I'd build my pylon there, and it would be the perfect range to do it. But yeah, practice your wall-offs. You should have a single space gap that should be not diagonal. Like, that is not a proper choke point. Diagonals are really bad. You want it to be overlapped. So if you have, there's no examples in this game of it, but if you have a depot and then another depot, for instance, you know, that sort of stuff, or like a gateway, a 3 space gap, and then a cybercore, that's a really easy gap to put a unit on hold position in, and you'll be fine. I always get swamped. Yeah, check what happens in those games and just try to make sure you're doing a proper build order. There's a lot of early attacks, so try not to just think of it as early Zerg pressure, because there could be a big difference. One game you get 12 pooled. That's really easily scoutable. Your probe sees they have no expansion and they have the fastest spawning pool possible, and Ling's already coming out. That requires a much different response to someone at 4 minutes sending 20 Lings across the map, right? For a bit of a pokey poke, and you leaving your unit out of position. So make sure you're actually checking what the opponent's build order is, so you understand the context of what's happening. Problem is, I don't know when to adapt and when to just take the loss, says Fallen Artorias. No one does when they're new. So the general easy way to improve is to just focus on your build and keep doing your stupid thing. And then if you encounter a problem multiple times or something starts frustrating you, you can put a little bit more thought into it, or you can show it to a friend or a community member and go, hey guys, I'm not sure. This is my goal. This is the build I'm working on. I'm really focusing on bam, bam, bam. But this thing keeps catching me out, and I don't know if I should adapt or just focus harder on my build. Post a replay up on my Discord server or in one of the forums. People look at that, they download it, and they go, hey, yeah, well, you're doing this wrong. Your build's totally shit in these 5 ways, which would actually make you way stronger, and you would even win that situation. I mean, your build's not great against that, but it would be fine if you just macroed better doing this and this. And you're like, oh, cool. I thought I needed to completely change my build, right? So that's like a very important skill, is getting involved in a community so you're tapping into a wider pool of shared knowledge. You'll never get good at anything if you don't seek help, essentially. Unless you're like some sort of raw genius character who's just smarter than everybody else in the world. Like if you wanted to go and become very competitive with golf, you're not just going to go to the fucking course and just hit the ball a million times. You're going to get coaching. You're going to not just look up videos, but then also try and get coaching, try and get, you know, join a club and talk with other people, and they can give you advice. People are like, oh, you know, you're swinging that wrong, whatever. Any sport, any activity, you got to tap into that shared knowledge pool, or every lesson has to be learnt. Every mistake has to be made personally yourself for you to get to the end result. That's a very slow way to learn. It can be fun in its own way because there is self-discovery, but definitely it's very slow, very slow. All right, guys, I think I might be done for the day. How many games did we play? All right, guys, we started there. We played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 games in Bronze and Silver. I think is pretty solid. I think we showed a lot of things. We defended a battle cruiser, which was, I guess that wasn't 10, actually 9, because we started at 9. Yeah, we defended a battle cruiser pretty early on. I think Magnus did the battle cruisers to us, which was cool. Obviously, there'll be different things. Like, no one pylon blocked me or anything like that. And people... The annoying thing is, like, I can already see the complaints, because every time you do one of these shows, there's people like, but I encountered this one thing and it didn't happen to you. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's StarCraft, baby.